What's up, Black Comic Lords? Welcome to the channel. We have another dope edition of our Black Comic Creator interview series. We've been very blessed this year with the opportunity and privilege of being able to interview some of the best and brightest comic creators in the business. Those artists and writers that bring us those books that we all love. It's interesting. You know, there's lots of comic book writers, right? Like there's people that write comics. But every now and again, you get someone who goes beyond that. Someone who not just writes comics, but they also are capable of, writing television, writing movies, being a producer, editor, stuff like that. People like Rodney Barnes and Joe Illich and Brian Edward Hill. These are guys that just take it up a few more notches, and that's who we have with us tonight, and Mr. Brandon Easton. These type of creators are not simply writers. Not that there's anything not to disparage what a writer is, but these guys are just a little extra. They're storytellers. They're storytellers. They're people that can share a story, create a story, entrap your mind and take you to other places, regardless of the medium in which they do it. Brilliant people. I have a lot of respect for them. So with that, on no further ado, let's bring Mr. Brandon Easton.
Hey, how you doing?
How are you, sir?
I'm good, and I apologize for the Band-Aid. In rushing back to get to this, I smashed my face against the door, so my nose is bleeding. So please forgive me if I momentarily from time to time check to see if I'm bleeding still. But other than that, I'm actually very, very good. Very nice to be here.
I appreciate your excitement and enthusiasm in joining us, that you rushed so much you caused yourself an injury.
Yeah, it was just me. I was coming up first, man. I wasn't paying attention. It was my fault. So, but it's everything is good, man. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm seeing some familiar faces or the visual thing in the corner. So it's really cool. So let's get going. I'm very happy to be here.
All right. So look, the cool thing about you, I'm going to bring up a picture of one of the books that you've done in the past. I mean, but before we get into that, I always like to ask, or I used to always like to ask, as a child, what was on your pull list? Like, what were the comics that got you into comics?
All right. So when I first it's not broken. I'm sorry. When I first started thinking about comic books, there was a comic book shop, and this is like 1981.
Mm-hmm.
It was a comic book shop right across the street from my elementary school, and they used to have the old Marvel tales, which were the reprints of the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko original Amazing Spider-Man run. And I think the first comic I ever purchased, I believe, was the one with the Spider Slayer, where the first half of the book, Peter Parker had gotten his glasses broken by Flash Thompson, and they had to go fight in a boxing ring because Peter had really got fed up. And J. Jonah Jameson had hired Alistair Smythe to build a spider hunting robot that would specifically look for the energy waves that Spider-Man would emit. And that, I believe, was one of the, if not the first comic, one of the first comic books I ever read. So I started off as a big fan of the Marvel Tales books, which were obviously, again, were reprints of the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko run. And then slowly but surely, I kind of migrated into other Marvel books from there. Yeah, there you go. But that's not the one. The cover has like it's like a cover with like a bunch of little scenes on it with Spider-Man fighting Flash in a boxing ring and a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, eventually I bled into other no pun intended, but I bled into other Marvel books. And I think what really got me going was the Secret Wars crossover.
Yes. 1984.
The 12-issue maxi series. And also I had really gotten into Action Comics because I'm a big Superman fan.
Yeah.
And this was during a time when Brainiac had first become that Terminator-looking cyborg.
Right.
Not the bald-headed dude. It was like the one that was really lethal, looked like the skull ship version of Brainiac. So that was kind of dating me like 81, 82, 83, 84. That was the stuff that really dragged me in. And then later I got into like X-Men and things of that nature. But yeah, but you can credit Stan Lee and Steve Ditko for getting me into comic books at all.
You know, speaking about the past and things in our early years that gets us into this fandom, you know, let me bring up this comic.
Mm-hmm.
This book called Deviations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like an amalgam book of all the stuff that I was into as a kid, like G.I. Joe, Ghostbusters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Transformers, the X-Files, all in one book. This book is like a microcosm of your career, because so much of what you have done has focused on the genre, the culture of like my youth, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. All the stuff that I was into, you're bringing back and making it cool again.
Well,
and
I mean, thank you for saying that. I only did one story in that, and that was what if Optimus Prime didn't die during Transformers the movie 1986. So Deviations was a project that the folks at IDW, John Barber especially, had hired me for. And the whole book is what ifs. It's like, what if G.I. Joe lost? What if what was it? The Stay Puft, what was the Stay Puft Marshal? Zool. What if Zool had won? And what if, you know, it was all these what ifs, right?
Right.
And I had did what if Optimus Prime didn't die? And I didn't realize how many Hot Rod fans there were, because in that story, as a typical what if, it's not the original universe. People don't behave the same way. And all these Hot Rod fans just crucified me, you know, figuratively speaking, on social media, because I crossed some imaginary line of what I wasn't supposed to do with Hot Rod. It had gotten so bad that I had to physically threaten the guy who lived in LA. And I was like, dude, you know, we both live in LA. You really should stop coming at me this way. And it was stuff like that. And it was so weird because I had never had that level of vitriol leveled toward me because of something I wrote. And as a Transformers fan since day one, I was absolutely disgusted and saddened by the behavior of fellow Transformers fans. But the Deviations book was kind of like my kind of re-entry into comics, because like the stuff you're showing is not quite in chronological order of my career. But the Transformers Armada book I had done with a Dreamwave not long after doing Arcanium with LaShawn Thomas, who went on to do many, many things. But I was offered this free comic book day edition of Transformers Armada, and that would have been like 2002 or 2003 or so.
Over 20 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a good experience too, because I got to go to Transformers conventions, the early ones, not the modern ones are different, but the old school ones. I had a lot of fun meeting people, and I got to meet Peter Cullen back in 2000, I think 3 or 4 in New York City, because they had this one Transformers convention on the in Midtown, almost toward the Upper East Side, and that was a great experience for me. So Transformers have been a part of my life since '84, and as you know, I've worked on that property more than once and in many different capacities. So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, I bring up the Deviations book not because you did all the stories, but just the concept of bringing things back from our childhood, from our youth, and making it cool again. Like, you've done a lot of that. I mean, going to this next property, one that's really important to me.
Yes.
Robotech, man. If you were to ask me what was my favorite anime of all time, I would immediately tell you Robotech. This series was it for me. And it wasn't my first anime. I mean, I had Battle Beyond the Planets, you know,
Oh,
G-Force and
Gatchaman. Yeah.
Gatchaman and Captain Harlock and Star Blazers. But when Robotech came out, that was like a whole nother level of storytelling because it was very operatic. And I love the fact that you did this series.
Space
I
opera.
love it was I love you also continued where the show left off for the first segment, the Macross segment. You continued it from there, but before the Robotech Sentinels. Robotech fans know what the hell I'm talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bring in Vince Grant, Bowie's father, which we hadn't really had that character explored. One of the things that drew me to Robotech was the fact that it was the first anime I can recall that had a black person in it. So like you like expanded on that by going into that person's family with Bowie and Vince. So was that a conscious decision on your part?
Okay, so the Robotech Rick Hunter series was, I mean, I was shocked when I was offered it. I was shocked when I was able to pitch the story I was able to pitch. And then when it got greenlit through, you know, Tommy Yoon at Harmony Gold and the folks at Titan Comics. But I had wanted to fill in the space between the end of Macross and the beginning of Sentinels, which also was right before Robotech Masters. Because, you know, Robotech had the 3 generations. It was Macross, Southern Cross, and New Generation, but also known as Mos Piata. And I had read every Robotech novel that's ever been made. I mean, I'm talking about the prose, not the comics. And when you read the prose novels, it's a much deeper universe than anything you've seen in an animated version. Because there were 3 separate shows that were mashed together, you know, thanks to Carl Masek, who found a way to string it all together, and God rest his soul. But I wanted to bring in elements from not only the novels, but also some of the comics like Robotech 2, The Malcontent Uprising, Robotech 2, The Sentinels, subtitled The Malcontent Uprisings, which was about the Zentradi who had lived in South America, who had gotten tired of being basically second-class citizens and staged another rebellion. And the Robotech Defense Force was trying to keep them under control. And then a lot of crazy stuff would happen. And then that's in the Robotech novels and in the graphic novel series Malcontent Uprisings, or the Zentradi Rebellion, as the novel was called. So I brought in all of that. I read the Robotech 2, the Sentinels novels with Vince Grant and his wife Jean Grant, the parents of Bowie, who hung out with Dana Sterling in the Robotech Masters. They had an amazing arc that had never really been seen in any other medium or format, right? So I knew how incredible Vince Grant was as a character, and I knew how important he was to Rick Hunter and Lisa as well. So I decided to make sure that he had a spotlight. Because in a lot of ways, Vince Grant is the Captain Sisko of the Robotech franchise.
That's exactly what he is. You're the first person I've heard make that analogy, and you're absolutely 100% right. Is there any possibility that you will do that series in the future?
Well, I submitted a massive proposal to Harmony Gold. That would take us from the end of this graphic novel all the way up to and including Robotech 3, The Odyssey, which would be the search for Rick Hunter. And the SDF 3. But we're still working through that. I mean, I know that there's a lot of issues behind the scenes with licensing and timing and blah, 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 and budgets. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but rest assured, if they greenlight it, I created a very strong through line that would resonate with all real Robotech fans.
That's the whole Odyssey. That's the whole epic Odyssey.
Yeah, there you go. And then that's what I wanted to do, and hopefully plan on doing.
Well, if you do get it greenlit for that, make sure you come back here, because
believe me, I'd be happy to.
We got to talk about that. You also just to improve and establish your street nerd cred. Anyone who does Star Trek is cool with me.
Thank you, sir.
And you did it a couple times, so your nerd cred is very high with me. I appreciate that. let's talk about this Legends of the Dark Knight. You and I were talking about this backstage.
Yeah, that was a great project. I mean, I got to work on 3 of my favorite characters of all time. 1, Batman, Bruce Wayne. Also, number 2, Azrael, Jean-Paul Vallée.
Yeah,
who I think is an amazing character, being like one of the last of the Knights Templar, being Catholic, you know. And the third character obviously was Ra's al Ghul, one of my favorite characters of all time. So I had a story that was very Dan Brown-ish, you know, where they go to the Vatican archives to stop Ra's al Ghul from getting something that would hypercharge his Lazarus pits. That's what that story was. And I was very, very, very happy to have worked on that property. It was an amazing piece of work, and I had a good time. And if you can find it, there's a collected version of that year, which would have probably been 2019 or 2020, of Legends of the Dark Knight. But you may be able to find this on eBay or maybe Amazon digital. But it's just those 2 issues or whatever are very difficult to find. So if you can get a hold of it, you are a very lucky person.
Yeah, I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. I was trying to
it's very hard to get.
Try to prepare for tonight, and I couldn't find it. So I don't know what to say about this. But sticking with DC, you had a lot of good runs with DC Comics.
Yeah,
but the one that stands out the most for me personally. And look, I've been trying to get you on the show for like 2 years, because after you did that run, I was like tagging you on everything regarding it because I loved it so much. And that's this run that you had with doing the Mr. Miracle character, Shiloh Norman.
Yep.
Over these 3 series, the Mr. Miracle Source of Freedom, which how this did not get an Eisner, I don't want to talk about that. This was a fantastic series. It was an absolutely fantastic series.
Thank you so much.
I love that series. I bigged it up all over blackcomiclords at all times. I encourage people, go pre-order this book, go buy this book. This book is fantastic. Your artist on it is making big waves right now on the Black Lightning book,
yeah,
with Joe Illidge. So shout out to Joe Illidge. I think I saw him in the chat. Superman Worlds of War and Superman Metropolis all had backup stories with Mr. Miracle. What I really enjoyed was a couple things on this series. One, the redefinition of who Shiloh Norman is, because this is a character that goes back to 1973. I don't remember the year, but it was sometime in the 70s. You completely, how do I say this without getting myself in trouble? A topic that often comes up in our space is the idea of race swapping characters or doing legacy characters.
Yeah.
Right. And you took the idea of Shiloh Norman being a legacy character and you turned it on its head. And this is what I was trying to tell folk about this Source of Freedom book. You took the character of Thaddeus Brown and changed the origin just slightly, because he wasn't like a huge character in DC's lore. Scott Free was his as his protege was sort of the bigger Mr. Miracle, more identified Mr. Miracle, much like Hal Jordan was bigger technically than Alan Scott.
Right.
But you took Thaddeus Brown. I think the only alteration is I think he was never been portrayed as being black before. So you did that. And by doing that, tied him into Shiloh Norman in a way that was organic and made sense and completely revolutionized and changed and made better, for me, the character of Mr. Miracle. I don't want to give too much away for anyone who hasn't read it, but it's really, really freaking cool. And I love that it wasn't just a simple race swap. It was, you made it organic in a very simple way. Right. And I thought that was cool.
Man, I really appreciate you saying that. I mean, I don't know how people actually feel about it, because I don't think a lot of people read it. Yeah. You know, like from what I was getting from retailers, it was very difficult for them to sell it. It wasn't, I'm not Tom King, obviously, and that's not Scott Free. So, and there's nothing against anybody else. I'm just saying that it was very difficult sell. And the book didn't get the penetration, the market penetration that I had hoped, because I'd really hoped that Black comic book readers would have boosted it more so than you. I mean, I appreciate what you guys were doing, because I do remember that. And I was just so disheartened, honestly, by the lack of enthusiasm. And this happens a lot with Black creators in the business. Once, I mean, part of me wishes I had changed my name and pretended I was a white writer, so that way people would have actually given it a chance. But when folks know your name and they know that you're Black, they don't give stuff a chance. And I had written an essay many years ago called Black Geek Stockholm Syndrome, about how Black folks, and especially in comics, will whine and complain about the lack of Black representation. And then when a Black book comes out with a Black creator, they don't buy it.
Right.
They find every excuse in the universe not to buy it. And the sales reflect that. I'm not just saying that. This is not like, you know, bitterness. It's just a statement of fact that the numbers speak for themselves. I felt that I had delivered a book that spoke specifically to Black male self-deprecation, because the whole point of the story is the source of freedom is self-love.
Yeah.
And that is expressed thematically and also visually throughout the story, particularly at the end. I made sure to have a Black male and Black woman relationship at the core of it. I made sure to not shy away from bigotry. Yet it was crickets when that came out. And I have worked very hard not to be angry about it. And I'm not angry anymore. But there was a part of me that thought, and I will say this, like, what the F else can a Black writer do for Black readers? I mean, I don't know what else to do. I didn't know what else to do and say. Like, I had centralized the issue of Black self-hate in a DC Comics context. And I don't know. I mean, I really think that I should have done what some other people, I'm not going to say their names, but there was other editors and producers and writers who have changed their names for the sake of career advancement. I have too much integrity for that, but maybe integrity is antithetical sometimes to success. Maybe, I don't know. But if I had changed my name to like, I don't know, Jake Goodsell, you know, and never showed my face. And then if I did, I would take one of those Kmart pictures of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy and said I was the one who wrote The Source of Freedom. Maybe it would have sold.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about it. I mean, I poured a lot of myself into that. I poured a lot of what I know about Black self-reflection in American society into that book. And yet we still couldn't move the needle. So a part of me just wonders, like, what could we possibly put out that could move the needle? I don't know. I mean, and I'm not saying this was the greatest thing, you know, I mean, it's subjective, but I felt that when I was writing it, I was really getting things on that paper that I had heard and seen Black comic readers whine and complain about at panels, online, in forums, I mean, what else could we do? So moving on from that, it was a fantastic project. Fico knocked it out the goddamn box.
He did.
And I felt that the editors had given me a tremendous amount of trust to move that character in a direction that I thought he should have gone into. And if the sales had been what they should have been, we would have had an ongoing, or at least maybe 20 issues of the Shiloh Norman Mr. Miracle, but it won't happen. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. And hopefully if somebody else gets that gauntlet in the future to do something with that character, I hope they are able to get the sales they need to keep it going forward, straightforward.
It's a very important narrative that you talk about, because to DC's credit, the opportunity was there, right? There was nothing but air and opportunity for this character to blow up. The
and
stuff that you and they gave it to you. What you did in that particular series, you talked about our history in the series. You talked about bigotry in the series. You addressed the concept of am I good enough? Am I enough? Something Sam Wilson still struggles with to this day. And then you did world building and character building with the Shiloh Norman character, who is a very long-standing character in DC's repertoire, and you made him relevant. And then, as I show in this picture on the right, the way you build his power set, he's flying around, he's doing energy blast. The interaction he's having with the mother box is huge. No one's using a mother box like that. Nobody, not even Cyborg, is doing things in the way that you described it in his interactions with the mother box. You also show his intellectual side and show he's not stupid. He's not just an escape artist. This guy's brilliant, right?
All I can say, and I'm just trying to not get emotional, was that I'm glad that somebody out there picked up on what I was trying to do with that character.
You took a D-list character, literally a D-list character, and wrote him as an A-list character. Like this guy that I'm seeing on the page here, there's no reason he shouldn't be on the Justice League. He's that dope a character. He's that powerful a character. Yeah, I'm sorry not enough people knew about it.
I will address one thing. It wasn't that a lot of people didn't know. It was a lot of people decided not to support it because I did a lot to put it out there. It wasn't getting shared. It wasn't getting liked.
Yeah.
I posted on a bunch of black comic book boards. Nobody was sharing it. Nobody was liking it. Nobody was even talking about it. And then when it was over and I hit up some cons, I had a couple people here and there, talking about it. But it's just one of those things where sometimes, and it's not all the time, but sometimes black comic book geeks shoot themselves in the foot with a nuclear missile. Because we handicap ourselves because, and I'm going to say this openly, I've seen, white American creators do mediocre work and get a ton of support.
Right.
I've seen a lot of white women creators do great work, but a lot of white women step up for other white women, in the nerd space, big time. I see a lot of Asians and Latinos stepping up for each other. But again, with us, sometimes when they know that you're black, there's an assumption of inferiority.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to keep talking about that, but I just feel like that was the core example of what I've been talking about for a decade previous, that we got to really support each other. And sometimes it just didn't work. But anyway, we can go back. We can have another whole other podcast another day about that one particular issue.
Well, my man Richard, one of my partners here at Black Comic Lords, did a show this past Sunday in which he touched upon much of this. Richard, if you're out there, if you want to do a wrap up after this, you're more than welcome. We'll do that so you can talk about this further. Here's the thing: as much as I love Mr. Miracle, and we were probably the only space that I know of that was bigging up the book, but Black Comic Lords is about 10% of the size it was at the time,
right,
that it is now. So there's only so much we could do at the time. You wrote a book that, in retrospect, pissed me off, and it's this book.
I really enjoyed it. Night Thrasher was one of my favorite characters. And the only reason I bought New Warriors way back in the day, and I mean way back in the day,
speak on it.
When I found out that Night Thrasher was who he was, I bought that book for the first 25 issues, up until Mark Bagley left.
Right. I mean, Bagley and Fabian Nicieza, just put together the coolest team of the 90s, being led by a Night Thrasher. He was the reason I bought the book.
Right.
I literally own every volume of that series, even though he wasn't in all the volumes, but just on the strength of my loyalty to Night Thrasher. I'm gonna tell you why this story pissed me off. I actually bought this and read this way back in the day when it came out originally. But in preparing for tonight, I was rereading a lot of the stuff that you did, and I reread the story in this issue. And it reminded me, and it immediately pissed me off. And the reason why is you gave me the Night Thrasher that I wanted to be in this latest Night Thrasher series that Marvel put out. What you did in this, I think it's maybe 8 pages, was better than the entire 4 or 5 issue run of that Night Thrasher series that just came out. And I'm not even exaggerating. I'm not saying that just because I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. That's not what I'm doing. It literally was all the complaints that I saw in the space about that series. People are like, oh, it didn't do this, it didn't do that. Why didn't it do this? You put it in these 8 pages. You showed his intellect, you showed his fighting skills, his interaction with the other superheroes, them showing him respect, the changes. Well, the first thing I said, why don't you make Night Thrasher's skateboard a hoverboard? It's the 21st century. It's not the 90s anymore. Make it a hoverboard. Dwayne McDuffie will thank you for it because he was like, not another kid on a damn skateboard.
Exactly.
Make it a hover.
Yeah, I didn't forget that, by the way. You know,
so that thought crossed your mind. That was one of my questions. Was that a conscious choice? I'm glad you recognized that because McDuffie talked about that. And you took his hoverboard and you made it cool. You gave him a Mr. Terrific moment where he's using the man. Look. So when I reread this story the other night, I was like, damn, I wish I hadn't read that again. Now I'm upset all over again about why I really did not like that last Night Thrasher series, because this is the story that I wanted to have. And I spent all that money on that series thinking that every issue would eventually get to it and never got there.
I'll just say I can't force any editor to hire me. You know, all I can do, they know I exist. They know what I'm capable of. And if they decide not to send me an email, there's nothing I can really do about it. And I didn't read the new one. I mean, nothing against any. I don't know who the new writer. I just didn't buy it because my comic book budget is notoriously lower now than it has been in decades. But you know, I had an entire arc. This is old. I can talk about what I had planned to do if they had hired me. I was going to move Night Thrasher from New York to Baltimore, where I'm from. I'm from Baltimore, born and raised. Okay. And I was going to do a whole thing. This is before Freddie Gray, obviously. But I was going to do a whole thing about Night Thrasher cleaning up Baltimore because, you know, there's an old joke out there. They say these bad cities are like what Gotham would be like without Batman. But in a lot of ways, Baltimore is what Gotham would be if there was no Batman.
Right.
And I had a whole arc set up that, and the editor knew it, but the guy who hired me to do that didn't have the power to greenlight me. And, you know, there's a whole thing I'll share off camera at some point where I know what actually really happened, but there's nothing I can really do about it. And yeah, but I had a blast writing those 8 pages. And I wish someday in the future I would get another chance to do Night Thrasher, but you know, we'll see.
I encourage anyone who's watching this, please, for your own reading pleasure, pick up that Mr. Miracle, Source of Freedom, and pick up this Civil War II. I think it's issue 1 of Choosing Sides.
Choosing Sides, yeah.
First of all, issues 1 and 2, completely black books. Shh, don't let the fanboys know. Completely black books, all black characters in these 2 issues. But yeah, it's a dope read. All right, moving on. Ooh. WATSON and Holmes, issue number 6. You didn't write the whole series, but 6 is the one that got nominated for awards.
Yes.
Wasn't it nominated for an Eisner?
I got nominated for an Eisner. I lost to Matt Fraction on Hawkeye, which I was angry that night, but I understand how the industry works. But yeah, I had written that, and I had written another issue a little bit further in. But yeah, that was a fantastic experience, and I have to give props to Brandon Perlow and Paul Mendoza of New Paradigm for taking a chance on me, because they hired me at a time when, you know, I couldn't get work. I mean, I had a few things out, but it just wasn't working. And they emailed me and said, Brandon, would you like to do just one issue? And I was like, sure. And I came up with a story based on some events in New York City with a transgender person and some politicians. And because I'd read an article in the Village Voice, you know, RIP, Village Voice was one of the greatest newspapers of all time. And I'd read an article years ago that really stuck with me. And I felt that even though I am not a part of that community, I do have friends in the LGBTQ plus community. And there are some stories that I felt should kind of be told, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that story kind of made a splash in a way. And it was one of the best experiences of my life, because it was another example of somebody taking a chance on me and me delivering something of quality.
Well, it certainly paid off being nominated for Eisner Award. You lost to Matt Fraction, but that's cool that you got nominated on One Shot. That's awesome.
On a One Shot of all things. I mean, it blew my, I mean, yeah, but anyway, I mean, it's no hate toward Matt Fraction or anyone. It's just that night I really thought we had a chance, you know, sort of like the past election, but I really thought we had a chance. Man.
Too soon, bro. Too soon. Mm-hmm. Another book that you got a lot of critical acclaim from was early on in your career, Andre the Giant. I mean, just showing the fact that it's not just all fanboy, nerd, super sci-fi stuff that I'm into, but you can write in just about any genre. What drew you to this Andre the Giant project that you got so much acclaim for?
Oh, I mean, first, I've been watching, so being from Baltimore, and I'm going to get into the pro wrestling thing if there's any wrestling fans out there. You know, being in Maryland is in the mid-Atlantic, which back in the territory days, when wrestling promotions were only in certain regions, Maryland fell in between both the WWF and what back then was called Jim Crockett Promotions, also known as NWA, which eventually became WCW, right? So I grew up a wrestling fan. I used to go to the Baltimore Civic Center. Then it was called the Baltimore Arena. I don't know what the hell they call it now. But back in the day, I used to go to the Baltimore Arena, and I used to see, you know, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, the Four Horsemen, you know, the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, the whole nine. And then I would also get to see Hogan, Savage, you know, the Beefcake, Greg Valentine, and Andre the Giant, you know, because it would be different, you know, weeks and months, right? So when I had gotten hired early on at Lion Forge, back when they were just a comic book company, one of the projects they had in their, you know, portfolio at the time was an Andre the Giant biography. So me being a wrestling fan and them being wrestling fans, because those dudes are from St. Louis, which is also a wrestling hotbed, has been and will be forever, really, like Baltimore. I got to meet Andre's only living daughter, Robin Christensen, fantastic person. And I got a chance to write a biography about Andre the Giant. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my career, one of the better experiences of my career. And that's basically how it played out. That's how I got that gig. And Dennis Medry is one of the best artists I've ever worked with. I mean, we had a language barrier, yet he still managed to capture the emotion that I wanted on that page. Mm. And that book to this day is probably one of my finest. It's in my infinity gauntlet of projects for my own personal life.
So that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up.
And to answer your question, I preferred NWA because it was much bloodier and grittier, because, you know, Southern promotions tend to be a little bit darker, like AEW is now. It's a little bit dirtier, grittier, lots of blood. And I was more into that than the cartoony WWF stuff.
Now, we talked about Robotech earlier. You also did another anime type of series, this Arm Marauders.
Arm Marauders, yeah. Well, I was hired by a guy. I reached out to him when I saw this many, many, many years ago. And he hired me. I didn't think I was going to get hired on it, but he hired me out of the blue. And it did not go as well as we had planned, because at the time, the marketing and promotion of an independent mecha book without any kind of connection to anything stateside is very difficult. Like you can sell Power Rangers, you can sell Robotech, you might be able to sell Gotcha Man to a point, or Voltron, but our Marauders was completely new and had no connection to anything. So despite the fact that I felt visually that was one of the most beautiful books I've ever worked on in my entire life, period, it just didn't get any traction. And it was nobody's fault. It just was, the timing was bad, you know, and that's basically how I look at it, you know. Great book. I had a lot of fun on it.
Back to more Japanese anime. Most recently, you did Kamen Rider right before you did Robotech.
Yeah,
Kamen Rider 01, and Mask. Like you've done Mask. You brought back Mask, man. The only thing I haven't seen you do is G.I. Joe. When's that going to happen?
Well, wishful thinking. Well, which one did you want to talk about first?
let's start with the Kamen Rider.
Okay. Well, I mean, I had met a brother who worked at Bandai. I don't believe I don't believe he's there anymore. And Kamen Rider 01 was, compared to all the other, like there's like 30 of them or 35 or 30. There's a ton of Kamen Rider shows, right? Different ones, they're all different. 01 for some people is kind of like what I call the CW version of Kamen Rider. Everybody's ridiculously beautiful. It's very simple and easy to understand if you're not a Kamen Rider fan. So I enjoyed the show, the 01 series, and they wanted me to write a series that took place, a comic book series, American comic book series that took place between episodes like 5 and 10 of the show, and which was very easy to do. We were very well received. I mean, the sales weren't what we hoped, but I mean, the reception was very good for the people who did buy it. That was a lot of fun. So you can still get it. I mean, Kamen Rider 01, the graphic novel, is still available. So check it out, folks. It's a lot of fun.
Mobile Armored Strike Command.
Yes. Now that was very controversial because that was in the middle of when IDW was doing that big Hasbro crossover, right? Called Revolution.
Right.
There were a lot of things that were out of my hands, excuse me, in regards to editorial and what I was able to do.
Yeah. The whole Energon universe they're doing now was kind of like this was the precursor to it.
In a way, yeah. But this is the thing about it. The only thing I was able to get through was turning Matt Tracker into a black guy. But this is what nobody knows. Hasbro reps came to me and said, we need to diversify this team. I said, well, what if you made Matt Tracker a black man? They were like, fine. It wasn't like, I was like fighting for it and I had a hammer and sickle. It was like, he got to be black. No. They wanted diversity because the original Mask team, in their opinion, was not hitting on a demographic range it should have hit, right?
Yeah.
So then the book comes out and everybody's mad. So the funniest tweet that I made was Geeks Online. He made Matt Tracker black. Other geeks, who's Matt Tracker? So it was this whole thing where there was this manufactured outrage.
Yeah.
But I was forced, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but I was forced to work within the confines of the Revolution universe, which meant it could not be your grandfather's mask. It could not be your daddy's mask. It had to be the Revolution mask. And since there had not been a Mask comic for so long, and because there were some deviations, no pun intended, from the original cartoon, a lot of the Mask fandom was just nasty and mean and ridiculous about it. Not understanding that writers don't get free reign on major properties. Every now and then you might, but like, for example, Mr. Miracle, but for Mask, which was Hasbro, which at that time, and I can talk about this, a lot of people, I don't know how many people are aware of this, but Paramount was trying to do a shared Hasbro universe at that time. And we also had to keep that in mind. So it wasn't like I was sitting around just kicking my feet up, like, let me just ruin this as much as humanly possible. That wasn't the case. There are always things going on that your average toxic jackass fan online knows nothing about. Yet they feel extremely qualified to reach conclusions about things they don't know anything about. Like for me, I don't know anything about the world of opera, right? I don't. I know, like, Barbara of Seville from Bugs Bunny, and Elmer Fudd, but I don't know nothing about opera. So for me to get on and see an opera performance and then go online and start trashing it, it would be from a complete place of ignorance. And I feel like a lot of the complaints out there, like when you see a casting decision, when you watch something like the Star Wars fans hate everything, it's like you don't have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. People aren't trying to deliberately ruin anything. There's market conditions and market forces and studio politics that the average person who's not working in the business will not know about nor understand. And I've been saying this, and these folks online, they don't get it. I have friends back east who all they do is talk about Hollywood. They never step foot in Los Angeles.
Right.
They don't even know where a studio lot is. Yet they have these opinions and conclusions that are based on probably 0.03% knowledge. And that's the problem that I see in the world today.
So we're going to circle back to this concept of intellectual property, because I think that's kind of the theme of what you're talking about. And to that point, you haven't just worked on already existing intellectual properties. You've done some independent stuff as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Unstoppable Comics was J.D. Rosario, is a Puerto Rican brother out of New York. He hired me to work on this Interceptor book. This is also this is not too long after, I think, Watson and Holmes. I wish I had had more chance and more time to develop that world further, because it was a lot happening very quickly. And I ran into him at this last New York Comic-Con and said, dude, if you want to do another Interceptor one-shot, I would love to do it, because it's a great universe. The Unstoppable Comics universe is fantastic. You'd be supporting a brother of color who is down for the cause. He created a black male superhero. We didn't have to do that, but he did.
Right.
You can find, he has a Kickstarter going on. I hope folks check it out. But that dude is awesome. JD Rosario is his name, Unstoppable Comics. And then I got to work with my friend Anthony Montgomery, obviously, who played
Star Trek
Mayweather on Star Trek Enterprise. Good brother. He trusted me to help, spearhead his original property, and we had some challenges. It wasn't his fault. It's just the way it is when you try to hire people, and anybody and every writer out there will attest that sometimes you try to hire these artists. A lot of times you cannot get people to finish what they start, and that hurts a lot of indie projects. And people don't like to talk about it, and this is not trashing any particular artist, but sometimes you got to finish what you start, period. And a lot of people don't. All right.
Well, we're going to change gears for a second and go into the other aspects of your career.
Sure.
But before we do that, those of you watching, got about 42 people watching, don't have nearly enough likes. I want you to all take a moment, pause, like the video. It doesn't cost, just take a second, hit your thumb, like the video, share it on your social media while you're on it, and certainly keep the comments coming. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can if we have time at the end. All right. So beyond comics, you've also been a filmmaker.
Yeah, I went to film school. Yeah, my MFA is in film, actually.
Where'd you get your MFA from?
Boston University.
Okay, all right. You kind of wicked smart.
Yeah, well, it's better than going to Fenway Park and pack the cash. Now, Boston, Boston was a very interesting time, but we can get into that conversation another time.
All right, tell us about this. It's on Prime Video.
Yeah, so Brave New Souls, and oh man, I wish I could do a whole hour about how this came together, but I'll make it very short. So I have been on a variety of Black comic book and science fiction forums over the years, particularly Hero Talk, which is now gone, but we still talk about it from time to time. And when I was doing that, the one thing that kept popping up was, we don't know who anybody is, or how come we don't have this many people, or this and blah 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 blah, right?
Right.
So I decided to remedy that because I knew a ton of Black science fiction creators, science fiction and fantasy creators. So I decided that with my non-existent budget, non-existent travel budget, non-existent equipment budget, I would try to do this myself. And so I recorded the video, did the sound, did the lighting, all by myself, and directed it. And the only reason I was able to see as many people as I got to talk to was because I was working at Lion Forge, and they were, paying to fly me from city to city because they were promoting their, their NBC Universal Universe when they had Knight Rider and A-Team and all that stuff for a little bit. Miami Vice, a few other, Airwolf, a few other books. So I was with them, and I was able to go from LA to Missouri, or LA to Chicago, or LA to New York City to talk to all the people I talked to.
And it's a hodgepodge of those just superior talent. We're talking Jeffrey Thorne, Erica Alexander, Anthony Montgomery, who just mentioned, Joe Illidge,
N.K. Jemisin, Nettie Okorafor, John Jennings.
It's
Yeah,
definitely. I haven't watched it yet, but I found out about it doing the research for this, so I'm definitely going to be checking this out.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, it wasn't what I had hoped it would be, but if a person is really looking to find people to support, this is a great Rosetta Stone. This is a great first step to figuring out the whole universe of Black sci-fi and fantasy creators.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't just your only venture into television and film,
right?
You have a whole bunch of credits to your name: Transformers, Thundercats. That 2011 series was awesome. You did an episode of that. Agent Carter did an episode of Agent Carter, which is a show that it's probably one of the. Honestly, I dug the show. I don't know why it only got one season. I guess I don't know why viewers two seasons. Why not enough people supported it? But I thought it was a dope series. How did you transition into television and movies? Was comics first, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, so I broke into comics in 2002 on Arcanium at Dreamwave. That was my first comic book gig ever, right? Then I moved to California in September of 2008. And in a couple of years, I was like kind of struggling here. And then I used some of my connections from grad school and other people I'd known. And I got work on the 2011 Thundercats over at Warner Brothers Animation. And that was my first Hollywood gig, period, ever. Then that spun into Transformers Rescue Bots. A few other years went by. I was working at Lion Forge not too long after that, right? Then I got into the 2015 Disney ABC writing program, which they only accept 8 writers out of thousands of applicants. And because of that, I got on Agent Carter season 2. So I was working through the whole season, but you don't always get an episode, but I got an episode, and that's what really got things going. And then after that, there was a few up and down years, which led us up until about 2018 when I got hired to do Transformers War for Cybertron Siege on Netflix. And that was a great experience for me.
Yeah. You also did Vampire Hunter D.
Yeah, I got to write. I wrote a pilot that I feel was pretty strong, but the problem was Castlevania had already hit Netflix. So I'm not hating on Castlevania because I love Castlevania, but Castlevania lifted, I'd say, 75% of its elements from Vampire Hunter D in every conceivable way, particularly when you look at Alucard.
Yeah.
So, so Castlevania was considered a competing project at the time. So Vampire Hunter D, the pilot, wasn't able to get traction, but the Vampire Hunter D graphic novel, Message from Mars, which to this day is still a Kickstarter exclusive. I am the only person on the planet selling it. And I only have a few copies left, so I have to figure out when I'm going to sell those copies, hardcovers. But yeah, that Vampire Hunter D project is fantastic. And speaking of that, we have a brand new Vampire Hunter D podcast. It's called Lefty Speaks, because you know his left hand is a parasite. And the Vampire Hunter D official podcast is available right now. You can go to YouTube, look up Lefty Speaks, or look up Vampire Hunter D podcast. We're there. Our second episode just went in. We just recorded a bunch of episodes for December and January. We're going to be having the guy who translated all the Vampire Hunter D novels on our next episode coming up in January. Kevin I think Leahy or something like that. And we have a lot of stuff coming in the future. So if you're a Vampire Hunter D fan, check out Lefty Speaks, the Vampire Hunter D podcast, as soon as humanly possible. We have a Discord there where everybody's talking. You can find those links. And we also have a Patreon. So if you are a Patreon subscriber to the podcast, you get not only early access, but we have some exclusive merchandise coming only for Patreon members. So if you are a Vampire Hunter D fan, we're coming back. This is it. We're coming back, and we're going to be doing a brand new 20-issue series written by me and drawn by Ryan Benjamin. Coming.
It's Ryan Benjamin, really? Bro.
Yeah, he did the graphic novel, the original one. I mean, the Message from Mars book.
Is there a website people can go to for all of this to get
information? The Patreon. Go to the Patreon. Look up Lefty Speaks Patreon, or go to the YouTube page for Vampire Hunter D. We have a lot going on, and the podcast is free after Monday, but it is, after the Mondays. But again, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you get early access to the podcast as well as merch that you will not get anywhere else. That will never be for sale.
All right. Well, we have a question from Dion.
Sure.
We're squeezing it in, Dion, because you gave us $10. Shout out to you. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate the love. Got his MFMA here in Florida. What advice do you have for aspiring screenwriters wanting to break into the industry in these modern times? Thanks.
Yeah, I have a lot of advice, which leads to that thing we were talking about intellectual property. Yeah. So the one thing I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt is that if you have your own original intellectual property that you own, you will stand a better chance of getting traction or getting people to take you seriously than if you're coming to Hollywood or hitting up people with your handout. And the old way of doing things is you write a spec script, a movie, just like whatever you want to write as a sample, or you write a spec TV script as a sample. You can still do that. That can get you some traction and some forward momentum. But the truth be told, everybody I know getting deals, everybody I know getting hired are people who have pre-existing material that has some kind of recognition. You don't need to have 10,000 fans, but if you have something that people have seen that you have put out into the world, that'll make all the difference in getting your career started. So my best advice, do a stage play, write a prose novel. Graphic novels cost a lot of money to produce, but to write a stage play is free, and to write a prose novel is free. Writing short stories are free. Doing a podcast is minimal investment, but if you can get a podcast or audio drama going based on your ideas, or even just read your own book and put it on YouTube or TikTok. TikTok has a very deep book talk following. It's called book talk hashtag, right? There's so many opportunities now that did not exist when I was coming up. So take advantage of Instagram, take advantage of Blue Sky, take advantage of TikTok, because that's where things are getting discovered now.
All right. There goes your advice, Dion. Run with it.
Yeah.
All right. So a project I was not familiar with, Takeover. What's this? Because that looks like Quavo.
That is Quavo from the Migos. It's a action thriller that's basically kind of like it's like Fast and the Furious, but which takes place in the street takeover world. Quavo is the main character. The villain is Billy Zane. It was co-written by me and Jeb Stewart, and Jeb Stewart is the guy who wrote Die Hard 1, as well as The Fugitive, the one with Harrison Ford. This movie is already done. It's done by Trioscope Studios. It is kind of a it's very similar to the old Lord of the Rings animation, which was rotoscoped, which has real actors, but they animate over them, right? So this film is a very interesting experimental live action / animation hybrid set in this world of street takeovers. I don't know when it's coming out, but I've seen it. It's absolutely fantastic, and I'm hoping people will, take a look at it when it drops.
Is it going to drop on a streaming platform, or is it going to be in theaters?
I don't know the answer to that,
All right.
Unfortunately.
All right. So there is a huge project wrapping up here that you're working on that we're terribly excited for.
Mm-hmm.
Yanu, Child of Wonder.
Yeah, it's no longer called Child of Wonder, by the way. It's just called Yanu.
Just a Yanu now. Well,
yeah, just to let everybody know.
All right. I had the privilege of speaking to Roy Okupe back at Schaumburg in New York in April,
right?
And listen to his presentation on this series. The work they put into this, the detail they put into every little thing is incredible. He likens it very much. He's a big fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Absolutely,
and that's the vibe that he's trying to go for, and Unique Studios is trying to go for. And just the preliminary stuff he showed at Schaumburg, I think he's going to do that. And that was a hugely successful series that I loved. My whole family loved. We sit around and watch Avatar. Tell us your involvement on this.
So, all right. So I was working at Blizzard Entertainment on Overwatch 2 and Hearthstone and a few other properties at that video game company. A great experience of mine. And I was coming to the end of my contract. And I had to make a decision on whether or not to stay at Blizzard or try to come back into Hollywood, because I hit a couple of roadblocks and obstacles. And so I left to go work in video games, like a lot of writers do in Hollywood, right? And Roy and his producer approached me toward the end of my time at Blizzard. And they asked me, would I be willing to adapt the first graphic novel or elements of the first graphic novel into a TV pilot. And I did that. The reception was extremely good at Warner Brothers Animation, or WBD, whatever you want to call it now. Then they approached me and said, Warner Brothers approached me and said, well, we love the first episode, but can you write episode 2? Because we're going to probably put this out as a 2-episode pilot, 44 minutes, which translates to an hour.
Right.
And they loved it. I wrote the second episode and they loved that. And then, this process took quite a while, but eventually, based on the strength of that, we were greenlit into a TV series. And I am forever grateful to both Roy and his producer, Erica. And they took a massive chance on me, and I believe it paid off. And I'm looking forward to seeing what and how people react to what the reaction is and how people will react to Yanu. Great. It's a great show.
And it's being put out by Lion Forge Animations, doing the animation.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So it's also significant. You've got this series that takes place. It centers around this hero black girl.
Mm-hmm.
In Africa. It's not post-colonial Africa. It's pre-colonial Africa.
It's a mythological Nigeria called Yoruba land. Right.
And you've got Lion Forge, which is, I believe, a black-owned animation company.
That's true.
Black creators on it. Roy was very adamant about making sure he had Nigerian actors do the voices for authenticity purposes. This is a blackity black show, and yes. I think it's one of those few things where we talked about Hollywood before, and I would imagine most Hollywood people this is too black. This is too people. It's not going to do well. It's too black, and I think based on just the quality of the show and the universality of the themes that they're doing, it has the potential of breaking that glass barrier, that myth. Much the same way Black Panther did back in 2018, that something that's centered around black characters, black creators, black owners, even a step further, might be successful across the mainstream, and this show has the potential of breaking that myth. So I'm really excited about it. I hope when Roy frees up some time, he and you can come back on here and talk about the series. When is it supposed to drop?
Spring 2025.
Yeah, hopefully before it drops, you guys will have some time.
Just a few months away. We're getting close. And
come talk to us about it. We would love to have you guys back.
Yeah, I told them about this interview tonight. So hopefully once they see the link, that'll help push the promotional team the marketing team to come back around, and we can do something like this.
Last thing, because I know you got to go.
Yes.
You did this post recently about intellectual property. You just talked about it a little bit. Just your brief thoughts on this topic because of all the people to talk about intellectual property, someone who's actually worked in different fields in the genres of film and television and comics has a very unique perspective, I would think, on this topic.
Yeah. Hold on for 1 second. So what I've noticed in the last 5 to 6 years, so before the pandemic and before the strikes, and I'm specifically the writers' strike, the Writers Guild of America strike, the union of screenwriters in LA, in Hollywood, in the industry, excuse me. What I had noticed was that people who had something to sell would get a lot more traction than somebody going in asking for something. It is very important that you never appear like a beggar. And I don't mean this in a pejorative sense, but Hollywood is a lot of people within the entertainment industry are looking for any reason to say no. And the reason why is because when you say yes, suddenly you open yourself up to potentially millions of dollars being spent on something that you're not quite sure is going to be a success or not. One of the ways to mitigate that fear is if you can prove that you can sell things on your own, that you have a track record that's measurable. And even if you don't have the biggest track record, the fact that you could put something through to completion that's not just another spec script is a huge deal. So right now, post-pandemic, post-strike, post-really entertainment industry, because we have no idea what it's going to morph into, the only things that are really heating up are IPs. Just 2 days ago, Netflix spent 7 figures on a book series. I think it was called Silver something. And it's astonishing that 7 figures, Netflix stopped spending money because of the pandemic, but they just dropped 7 figures, which means $1 million plus on this brand new novel series, YA middle grade fantasy series. And if that doesn't tell you anything, it tells you that this industry is still hungry for material, but it needs to be something that can sell. It needs to be something that people care about. So with that being said, I implore everybody, create your own material. Stop knocking on Marvel and DC's doors. I talk to people all the time. They always, I want to write this, I want to write that. I'm like, yo, they're not going to hire you. Not yet. And ultimately, the people who I know who have done extremely well, people like Roy Akupe, people like David Krausen, who did Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, they're not sitting around worrying about Marvel and DC.
Or lamenting the fact that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur got canceled. And it's like Marvel owns that.
But I'm just saying that, like, when you really look at it, once you have your material, you're not worrying about knocking on somebody else's door when you have your own house.
Yeah.
And that's what it really comes down to. Build your own thing. Take your time. Take one step at a time. But make something quality. People come looking for you. Trust me on this.
All right. Are there any questions, just a couple questions before he goes that you have, Mr. Producer Man, Dr. Wizard?
I spoke to Brandon Thomas about the Two Brandons podcast. I don't know if and when it will come back. I mean, he's been dealing with a lot of work stuff, and so have I. So I mean,
that's funny because he said the same thing. We interviewed Brandon just like a week or two ago, and his question came up, and he was like, "Well, I got to talk to Brandon about that."
No, I'm free to do it. I'm not. This is not a bad thing. I just know he's had a lot of stuff he's had to deal with. I am more than happy because I'm still producing podcasts. I'm still doing stuff. I would love it to come back. I just have to confer with him.
All right.
For his schedule.
What else we got, Dr. Wizard? Just a couple more. He's searching. He's searching. He's searching. Is Dr. Wizard on the bathroom break again? He does that sometimes. I guess that's all he has.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, where can people follow your social media and what you're doing and keep up with what you're doing?
Well, okay. So, where do I begin? I'm on Instagram at Brandon Easton Writer, exactly how it sounds, WRITER. I'm on TikTok now. I just started doing a TikTok channel just talking about, the post-election stuff, talking about what it is to be a Black male in modern American society. My last TikTok was about the stupidest conversation I ever had with someone about why Black men don't smile. And then thank you, Seb. I see you. Last time I ran into Seb was at the Roots concert at the Hollywood Bowl. And that was a hell of a thing. It was a hip hop show out here where it was Roots, Arrested Development, all kind of folk. It was a dope show. So thanks, Seb, for your kind words.
Shout out to Sebastian Jones and Kanan White, Joe Illidge.
Yeah. So I'm on Blue Sky, Brandon Easton Writer, or Brandon Easton. You can find me on Blue Sky. And I'm still on, every day I'm on Facebook, unfortunately, just to talk with people and stuff like that. So feel free to reach out. I mean, I'm available. I'm around. I'm always happy to talk to folk and build, and keep an eye out for Yanu, which is coming in early 2025 on Cartoon Network and Max and Showmax internationally. We were sold into a bunch of different territories and regions worldwide. So Yanu is not just going to be in North America. We're going to be seen all over the world. And the Vampire Hunter D podcast, Lefty Speaks, is brand new, and we're episode 2, and we're available, and it's free unless you jump on the Patreon. The Robotech Rick Hunter book is still available on Amazon. The Vampire Hunter D Message from Mars is not available. I'm holding on to them, but I will be selling them at some point. So keep an eye out for that. And I have some big announcements to make about myself in 2025. I'm not quite ready to make those announcements yet, but keep an eye out. After I make those announcements, we definitely might want to come back and have a conversation again real soon.
Definitely might. Come on, man.
And there you go. So yeah, so that's me. And I wanted to say thank you to everyone who showed up and sat through this. I really appreciate your kind words and your encouragement. And thank you, Paul, you and your team for having me. And I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. It's been a long time coming. We have a tradition here at Black Comic Lords that when you interview with us, we consider you family. So what we'd like you to do is to look into the camera, say your name, and say, I am a Black Comic Lord.
My name is Brandon Easton, and I am a Black Comic Lord.
There you go. Welcome to the fam.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
All right. Our pleasure. Listen, everybody, thank you for listening in. Like this video, share it amongst your social media. We're going to do Wednesday wrap-up after this commercial break. Brandon, please come back as soon as you can.
I will. You have my word.
You have our email and the contact stuff. Just hit us up. Come back anytime. All right?
All right. Take care, fellas. Good night.
Brother, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, Doc.
Comics are different. Those things cannot be returned if they do not sell. Okay, so that means that if they buy 10 copies of Monica Rambeau Photon and nobody buys it, they eat that money. And your local comic shop is, the margins are very thin, right? Times are hard for everybody. And so what that means is that it gives comic shop owners incentive to be very risk averse, right? And so you could order a bunch of Batman and you know that every month people are going to come in and buy Batman. It's often characters of color, new characters, lesser known characters where they're like, I don't know, this could be good, but if I put this on my shelves and people don't buy it, I lose money. And I'm sympathetic to that. That's a real assessment that they have to make. So the way that we avoid that is you go in and you pre-order. So Paul goes in 3 months before the comic set comes out and says, hello, I would like to pre-order Monica Rambeau Photon #1. I'm not going to wait till it comes out. I'm telling you now that I want it. And at that point, they're like, okay, let me go ahead and order this. And in the comics world, that is the sale that counts. By the time you come into a store and purchase a comic book, that sale does not count. I know it is ridiculous. It is very silly. That is the way it is. The sale that counts is when the store orders it from the distributor. That is what they are counting. And so what that means is that when you go in and you pre-order things, it actually gives that store confidence. Like, okay, Paul said Paul's going to be back and spend his $5 on this book. So we're good. If we order this one, we know it's going to sell and we can pay our rent. We're not going to be eating this cost this month. The best thing to do is your subscription or your pull list where you go in and you say, I want you to put these in every month for me, right? And then they will set that aside in a box.
Message.
Did he just pop us in? No intro, no video, nothing. Just hey, just put them on. I'm could be sitting here picking my nose or something. That's good.
Hey, whatever I can do. I'll tell you what. Let's do something about that right now. What do you think?
This guy, he's. There we go. That's better. Hello,
It's the
everybody.
Wednesday wrap-up show.
That's my line.
I know.
That's what's up, Rich?
That was a good interview.
Man, that was a dope interview. I gotta share this before we get started, though. I am a very serious individual, but I have a super silly side to me. So before you guys, when you hit you sent the link to me, Derek. Why was I in the middle of fighting a Charlie horse in my leg? So I literally get up from where I am, I hop into the front room, and I'm trying to walk it off, laughing. And my wife is looking at me like, what is wrong with this? So I'm telling her I'm having a Charlie horse. Charlie horses are very painful. And I'm not no spring chicken. I always say that, but every now and then, God likes to remind me, you are what your number is. And I'm literally like hopping around trying to get this knot out my leg. And all I was doing, I stretched my leg, and I don't know if I stretched it wrong or whatever. All I know is just it hit me hard, and I had to get up. And I'm like, man, I know we're getting ready to do a show, and thank God Mr. Brandon Easton talked a little bit because I was not ready. So, but I'm here. So yeah, man.
Go drink some water, man. Have a lot of water, some Gatorade.
Yeah, you know what? That's sad too. This is a tub of Kool-Aid.
Good boy. All right, so what's up, everybody? I wasn't anticipating actually doing a Wednesday wrap-up show because, look, shout out to Rich. Rich did his show on Sunday, and this brother put together the best down the rabbit hole that I've seen him done, in my opinion. Summarizing a lot of emotions and thoughts and things that I talk about with the other Black comic lords behind the scenes, stuff that we talk about, things that bother us, things that, you know, we find amusing, things that we find weird in our space. And he managed to share our thoughts without being offensive. Because I didn't get the chance to watch it live because I was traveling. And Derek, a few days later, is like, "Did you watch Rich show?" I was like, "No." Yeah, you might want to watch it. I was like, "What did he do now? Good God, what did he do now?" He's like, No. He was good. He was good. He talked about, you know, X, Y, and Z that we talk about all the time. It's like, he can't possibly have talked about that and had it not. Did you run a disclaimer? Did you block out? Are we going to get in trouble? He's like, no, just watch it. So after I prepared for this interview for tonight, I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was like, let me just go ahead and watch some clips. And I saw that part. And honestly, brother, it was, as I think I mentioned this to you before, it was cathartic for me. Because things and thoughts that I wanted to kind of get off my chest, but I never really have either the emotional fortitude or just the time to get those thoughts out. You did, and I appreciate it, man. That was outstanding. I really enjoyed that a lot.
Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate that. You know what's interesting about that show? I knew when I came back that I wanted to do something that was gonna like stay in our wheelhouse, but I wanted to kind of shake things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we're doing a lot of good work, but I don't know if the fandom is aware of what's on the line. And so, if nothing else, I'm glad Brandon Easton was on tonight to talk about his frustration with Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
Which is why I wanted us to do a wrap-up show, because it's kind of like, this is what I'm talking about, guys. This is a guy who said that he put a lot of himself into that limited series. He knocked it out the park.
He did.
And one of the things that we have to do as a community is we have to go beyond our likes, if I can say it like that, or our interests. You know, I made a mention, like, you know, some guys just have one character, that's all they mess with, they don't mess with nothing else. And I think we need to grow and, you know, go beyond and try something different, do something different, because Mr. Miracle is not a character that just really pops up in people's minds, but it's one of those gems that if people go and read it, they would love it.
Yeah.
And so for him he sounded like, I'm gonna be honest, he sounded like he was really heartbroken.
Yeah.
It really was heartbreaking for him. Because again, you do this art, you do this for your people. You hear people say, we need this, we need that, we want representation, that. Then you get it, and then nobody buys it, or, you know, not enough people buy it. And,
or at least nobody says, I see you.
Yeah.
I see what you did.
Yeah. And
we were literally, and I checked, there was nobody else talking about this book but us. And we talked about it. We were like, people need to read this book. I personally posted stuff, said, people read this book. This book is fantastic.
Yep.
But we weren't very big back then.
Yeah. I mean, you know, here's the thing though, Paul. I don't even know if we would be at this point. I'm a little the black pill in me.
Here we go.
Is very strong right now.
Yes, it is.
I don't have. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a lot of confidence in our community. I just don't. And the reason I don't have the confidence in our community like that, like I feel like I should, is because I want to get that phone call from. I want to get that phone call from someone like Kanan White and say, hey man, Thanks for what you guys did, man. We knocked it out the park. We sold X amount of books. You know, you guys helped us to deliver. You know, we got good sales. You know, I'm looking for that call. And we got something like that kind of with the Epiphany Engine thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I kind of feel like I really want to see the needle move. I just want to see the needle move. And so it's kind of like we kind of stuck in place. And, you know, it's
Shout out to Kanan White, who's in the chat. Brother, we've been talking about trying to get you on the show for a while. 2025, we have to bring you on, Kanan. You're doing so much. Your artwork is, look, you know how we feel about your artwork. We need to bring you on. You're making a lot of moves, and people need to know your name. I don't want to see what has traditionally happened in, well, you're gonna make me go there. I'm making myself go there. I don't want to see a treatment of an artist of that caliber to be years and decades from now forgotten the way Mark D. Bright has been by a certain company. I don't ever want to hear something like that ever happen again. And so that's a large reason why we Black Comiclords do what we do.
Lord, we hadn't even talked about that.
We hadn't. You understand the amount of, man.
I told you the black pill. I got none but black pills tonight. I ain't got no.
Woo!
So
calm down.
So let before we dig into that, he did mention, Kanan did mention, and Eclectic Birdie Neat says, I didn't see any ads, CBR, Newsrama, or any other comic sites regarding the Mr. Miracle book.
Right.
And DC not promoting it or whatever. Here's the thing. We're going to have to go the way of the guerrilla. We're going to have to employ guerrilla tactics. And what I mean by that is that when DC puts something out, or Marvel puts something out, or whatever company puts something out, and if we really messing with it, we got to kind of be like the street team for the rappers in the 90s.
Yeah.
We just got to start stamping everything everywhere, filling up the telephone pole with ads. Y'all got to watch this with spam. You know, we do a show. We ain't talking about nothing but whatever we think is hot, and that's all we're going to talk about. We ain't talking about what did you think about, you know, as much as I love Black Panther, we're not going to talk about who got the better run, Coates or whomever. We got to really help promote this stuff and really make it a priority.
Hey, shout out to Sean Damian Hill, another artist who I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah, the trick is to get the needle to move in the mainstream direction, Mark. I think we get a bit unmotivated and cautious with Marvel and DC. I think that's definitely true. I just think that we have to, like, ooh, can I say it?
You might as well, man. I mean, look, as CEO, I'm going to give you a pass, Rich.
Don't
make me regret this, but I'm gonna give you a pass for tonight.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, we have to take a page out of the Republicans' book.
Oh my God! And Stephen Harris is in the building now.
What up?
Herschel just popped up out of nowhere.
What up? So here's what I'm saying. I'm saying that we have to start employing some propaganda, some guerrilla tactics, because I feel like if we know that the stuff is good and we like it, we mess with it, what's keeping, and I'm working on something, and it's kind of funny because earlier today I was thinking about the decolonization of the Black comic book mind.
Oh God, here we go.
And
you just really gonna bring all our behind the scenes conversations and put it in the live.
Well, see that, it's a lot going on between these two ears, bro. I'm just saying. But no, I'm really going to go down the rabbit hole behind the scenes and try to tackle that, because I feel like we have to fight that battle on that front as well, as when we in the shop and we're seeing folk like us buying Thor, which I have no issue with. If you like Thor, you like Thor. But what's stopping you from picking up Shadow Cabinet? What's stopping you from picking up, Prodigy? What's stopping you from picking up, these books? And Brandon said something about when people find out that he's on a book, they know he's a black man. And so they automatically have prejudged it before they even given it a chance.
That's why Jim Owsley exists.
That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah, I get it. But I mean, I'm saying we shouldn't have to do that though, bro. I'm like, God, no. Can we live?
It's 2024. And we still suffering through the same type of foolishness. We've made a lot of strides. And I asked Dennis Cowan that question, do creators today have to struggle like he did? The answer is no. But because they have a lot more opportunities. There's more opportunities, yes. The limitations and hindrances are still there. The glass ceiling, in many respects, is still there. The fact, I'm going to keep coming back to this, the fact that MD Bright,
he's going in a circle.
The fact that MD Bright, because of who may be an editorial at Marvel, and people will either not know who he is because they're probably too damn young, or just not really put value on the work that he has done. And I didn't want to God, you guys are really gonna get me in trouble. Look, I'll say it this way. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Ultimately, we asked, who makes the decision? And it came down to a very small leadership in editorial. And we talk about this all the time. When you don't have our faces in these rooms of leadership and editorial of the big two, this is what happens. This is why guys like Marquise Draper over at DC needs to be protected at all costs. This is, it bothers me.
I like what Kanan says. They don't promote us. I guess we have to, and that's the thing. I think that's why I said we have to employ some guerrilla tactics, because to your question, Kanan, about how many people know that Edwin Gallman is on a Superman title, not a 10-page anthology, or that Sean Hill is on an ongoing Ghost Rider book. And I'll be honest, I did not know. So the thing is that we got to, whatever these guys are doing, we need to be able to put it out there that, look, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. Kind of be like the news in a sense, or the soundboard, so to speak, because they're not going to buy our books. They're not. Truth be told, we can only do what we can do, and we can only control what we can only control. So, given that reality, if artists, if creators, if writers, if fandom is going to have any quote unquote fandom or skin in the game, so to speak, we have to 100% promote, 100% back it, 100% on all fronts, because I just do not. We're so fragmented, and Black Comic Holes is just Black Comic Lords is just one pocket in a fabric.
Yeah,
that's all over the place. We trying to grow this thing, but we're really literally in a pocket, and I don't know. Y'all got to give me some answers, because I'm at a crossroads with all of this.
So here's the thing. I kind of liken it. I saw this meme recently on social media where it talked about Black creativity, and the diaspora has always been given the scraps, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They give us the chitterling. They give us the leftover pig parts. We make chitterlings. They give us broken down guitar. We make a banjo. You know, they give us, you know, a segregated sport, and we make Satchel Paige. Whenever we are given scraps, we're like, fine, we'll go our own way and we'll do our own thing, and it's better than what you guys are doing, right? And we keep, I think the mistake that we make in our community is we keep looking at the big two and saying, you guys should be doing this for us. Well, why? It's not their responsibility. It's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to their shareholders. Their responsibility is to make money. And if you're not purchasing the book, they have no responsibility to you. Now, it's a twofold thing. It's one thing to say they have a responsibility to, you know, these characters that look like us. And that's a whole separate analysis as to the responsibility to the creators who put in this work. You know, when it comes to us, when it comes to giving the proper due to these creators, that's on us as a community, because we cannot expect nor anticipate, as we have found, that they're going to give weight, the same weight to these creators, our creators, that they will to others, right? I can look at a Torrin Clark or Oliver Coipel and say, well, that's just as good as Alex Ross. And have them go, no, it's not. Well, why not? Because, you know, this is that. Well, no, sir. You know, this Mr. Miracle thing, he loses out to Matt Fraction. This is a better book. No, it's not. Well, why not? I guess we need to stop trying to seek our affirmations from others.
Well, here's the thing, Paul. I don't necessarily think that it's the affirmation. Because just hear me out. When Mr. Miracle, Source of Freedom came out, right? We promoted that book. We talked about that book.
We did.
We did.
We were the only ones.
But it's like, it's after we inform, it's on the readership or the fandom that listens to us, that watch us, that say that they rock with us, or say to even go further, that they trust us, to kind of like, okay, let me take action, let me go get this. Clearly that didn't happen. I'm gonna be honest with you. I saw those Mr. Miracle Source of Freedom books in dollar bins, probably about 3 months after that book had finished.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, that's a sign of, okay, either this wasn't that good or whoever bought the book didn't think enough of it to like keep it in their collection. So I'm kind of like, why would you do that or whatever? Because this is a historical character. It's not like this is a new character. It's not like this is a throwaway character. Shiloh Norman has been around since the 70s. So the fact that DC would take the time to give Brandon Easton the green light to like write a story, and from what I could tell in that story, he was not hindered.
He was not.
He was not hindered. So when we get this representation, yeah. So my point is, when we get this representation, we can't act like we didn't get anything. Does that make sense? It's one thing to ask for something. All right, okay, you asked for it. I'm gonna give it to you because that's what Brandon talked about. You want a black book by a black creator with a black character. Here it is, and you use every excuse why you didn't get it. Use every excuse why you didn't buy it. The manifesto says the character doesn't have that many fans. Listen. Perhaps, I don't know, but I mean, it's.
When's the last time you saw anybody in our space post anything about Mr. Miracle? I'll wait.
No, nobody. Nobody. I mean, here's the thing. I just do, man. You know what? Can we just look at some other comic books? Can we look at the? Shout out to Jeffrey Thorne. By the way, Jeff, I know you in the building, man. I tried to give you. I hope you heard the love I gave you last. Not the other night, but my last show before this one. I talked about X-Force #5. Amazing book. Amazing. Did you read it, Paul?
I'm bitter about that book.
Why? That was a good book, man.
I'm a Surge fan. And I gave Jeff props. I'm like, Jeff, man, thank you for bringing back a character that's been put on the shelf. Surge is a dope character. I always liked her character. And she's gone. I was like, wait.
Gotta go.
She's going to get resurrected, right? Wait, what do you mean there's no resurrection anymore?
Yeah,
she can't come back.
Krakoa's gone. Krakoa Era's gone.
And then, look, shout out to him for bringing back the Assyrian Avengers. That was dope to see because they only running a couple panels in that original New Warriors run, and we got to see a lot more of them. I posted today from that book, and I said, "Man, this needs to be a thing. If there is, I need to see that Avengers team again. I need to see."
That's what
I don't know if it's a what if book or something, but they need to come back. They need to come back, man.
Now, Joe, shout out to the Godfather, Joe Ellis. He says
everybody's out here tonight.
It's not just black creators on black characters. How many people bought Deathstroke, Black Adam, or Superman Lost? I have all three of those in my collection.
As do I. Well, except the Superman Lost because I'm not a Superman fan.
Now, well, I'm gonna be honest. Superman Lost, which was nominated for an Eisner, I thought, and here's the thing, I didn't think that Superman Lost was Eisner worthy. It was a good series, but I just really wasn't head over heels over it. But a lot of people,
three issues from that one.
A lot of people seem to really dig it, and I definitely dug it. But was it like groundbreaking or whatever? As far as Superman goes, it was okay. The Black Adam series, I didn't really. I have them all. I have all the issues, but I really wasn't feeling Priest on that. Now the Deathstroke is the business. That's a fire run. The whole run is amazing. So he said Superman Lost was good. It was, but I'm just saying it was nominated for an Eisner. See, when I think of something is good, if I tell you it's good, then it's like, you can go spend your money on it. But for me, somebody to say, well, it's Eisner worthy. It was like, really? I've been saying Philadelphia is Eisner worthy. It ain't won an Eisner yet.
Well, let's ask somebody else.
Hey, there go my man. 100 grand.
Listen, man. Listen. Y'all are gonna make me come off of my other space. And y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Fellas, and Richard, I've been whispering to Richard here and there. Fellas.
Here we go.
Y'all said a lot of things, and I there's a lot to unpack. But hey, I'm like Dennis Green. They are who we said
thought they were.
They said they thought they were. This is who the community is. This is who the community is, and it's not me attacking the community, but this is who the community is. One of the things that I mentioned to Richard today is that Richard made. I put a thumbnail in something Richard said Sunday. He said white folks don't have to tell their readers to go and pre-order. That's just something that they, I guess, automatically know how to do, or they develop and they learn. We have to remember that black people been in comics and been writing them forever. But a lot of the collective, this black comic book community, a lot of these folks are really new to understanding how books are made. And a lot of people don't pre-order books that watch the show. They don't pre-order books. Or they'll stay on a book for a little while and they'll hop off. Right now, Storm has to only go to issue 13 for her to beat out her last ongoing series. I think the last one was either 11 or 12. And there's a lot of excitement and hype for her. I'm hoping and praying my girl at least makes it to 13. But there's a lot of people buying the book. But what we have to try to do, because it's not our responsibility 100%, we have to continue to just kind of make videos and promote and try to do a little bit more education with the community, with the power of pre-ordering. And the power, because that's what triggers these editors, that's what triggers these Marvel execs, and that's what's going to keep, when somebody dies, not in the damn book. We had that conversation in the spring about Mark Bright, and one of the very first things I said, I can guarantee you a lot of them boys up there the white guys that don't know Mark Bright, and it ain't got nothing to do with racism. When you go to just cons, when you go to other comic book spaces on social media, the face of comic books is Wolverine, Spider-Man, white heroes. We are an outlier, small community, but we're mighty and we're powerful. Not taking that away.
Well,
but we have to also understand that the bigger world outside of Black Comic Lords, we're almost like the Invisible Man sometimes. And it sucks. But that's
I get what you're saying. Here's the thing, though. Perch, who has a YouTube channel called Comics with Perch, did a show on Indie Bright.
Mm-hmm.
That's a white dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, again, some of these guys do know the our artists.
Sure, but how many Black people outside of us and a couple of folks inside of the comment section were hollering and screaming, "Where's MD Bright?" There wasn't enough noise around. Huh?
We was the only one on that hill.
I'm gonna be kind and say we weren't the only one on the hill. But I can't hold the other man accountable if I can't hold my own people accountable. My own people like, well, who's MD Bright? And that's okay. Everybody's not gonna know everybody. I've seen. I'll make a confession. I've saw MD Bright's art for years, ever since the '90s, but I never knew he was a Black man until like 3 years ago. So I'm one of these people who just didn't know. But when I knew, man, my man should be in this book. But I have to. But like Paul said, and like I've been saying for a while, Marvel and DC are a white-owned company. When they wake up in the morning and brush their teeth, it's with a Spider-Man toothbrush. They're not thinking about the Black characters. It's not the first thing on their mind. So our level of frustration needs to be adjusted a little bit because we have to recognize who we're dealing with. Now, when it comes to Mark D. Bright, he should absolutely be in tons of these Black Indie Bros books. That's where they should be at. When we talk about validation, we don't need other people to validate us. You're damn right we don't. But where is Mark? Why isn't Mark D. Bright in not one indie Black book? Tell me, but we're going to hold Marvel and DC to the knife? It starts with our community.
He did do Valiant. I mean, he did Quantum. He created Quantum and Woody with Christopher Priest at Valiant Comics.
All those Iron Mans he did, I got some of those books. I'm just saying, we got to, as a community, do better so that Marvel and DC are forced. Listen. I shared this with you, Rich, and I'm going to share this with everybody who's watching. I remember when Black Panther first came out, there was hardly any merch at first. They saw how Negroes went down that movie theater and cut up and danced and dressed and all that. They said, whoa. You Negroes ain't finna go down here and dance without our t-shirts on, without our watches. Black Panther got a toolkit. Black Panther got a floor jack. Black Panther got towels and pillows. The next week,
you got a floor jack, Paul?
It was like, y'all better get
I have the Black Panther lunchbox.
Bro, and guess what, Paul? You have one of maybe 100. I'm down here in Sarasota right now. Saw several different variety of Black Panther. It's not because of the movie. It's because of the noise that was made, the impact. Now, can you do that for a Black Goliath? Can you do that for a Storm? Probably not. And I get that.
No. I disagree. I don't. I think Storm has the potential of getting to that level.
You have to work up to that, Paul. You got to
hold on. Let me ask you a question. Name a female superhero. Who's Marvel's #1 female superhero?
By popularity?
Go ahead.
By sales? If you're gonna go by popularity, it's Storm. That's not even a question.
Not even a question. And
hold on. Are we talking about popularity? Or are we talking about overall?
No, overall.
Black female character.
I don't know, man. I think a lot of people.
Marvel's #1 in terms of bibliography, crossover appeal, meaning in terms of platforms, who has been on?
You don't think Jean Grey is right there?
Wait. Is Paul saying Black or just all females?
All females.
I thought you were saying all females. Because I'm like, if you're saying all females,
who's Marvel's #1
character? It's not going to be Storm.
It's got to be Jean Grey.
Black female, yeah, but not. No.
Why not? Ain't nobody checking for Jean Grey like that.
Guess what?
Jean Grey?
Here's the thing.
The Phoenix?
Here's the thing. Nah, Jean Grey got the merch. Sue Storm's got the merch. And guess what? You got more fanboys that's going to go crazy over there than you are of Storm. Now, Storm, respectfully, of course, she's up there, but she would not be #1.
Well, Jeffrey Thorne asked the question I was trying to get to, which is,
do any female
Marvel heroes sell well?
Carol Danvers has like 8 volumes. So people hate the actress, but people go after Captain Marvel.
But Carol Danvers got a specific and intentional glow up by Marvel.
They nestled her right between Infinity War and Endgame.
They made a conscious decision to make Carol Danvers. First of all, they switched her from Ms. Marvel to Captain Marvel. They made a conscious effort to promote that character and make her an A-list at all costs. They did.
She was probably
as you say, Herschel, Marvel can make any character an A-list they so choose. And right now, because this is all circling back to what you said, Storm ain't never going to be like that. Marvel's making a conscious investment to make Storm like that, to the extent that they're doing. Is it everything that they could do? Certainly not. Certainly not. But the most promotion they've ever given. Ever.
Listen,
the opportunity is there. The opportunity is there. It's on us to push that character forward.
Here's the barrier. Hold on. Here's the barrier. there is a lot of, I was sharing this with Richard earlier, there's a lot of people that love Storm, that love Carol Danvers. They're in our space. They're part of the 70,000. Hell, Storm got a Facebook group right now that's hella active. That's on Facebook. They collected comic books. Like that's their thing. That's a nice
the Storm Sanctuary.
The Storm Sanctuary. There is not any other Black female on social media that are doing her numbers and her activity on social media. So I'll give her that. But I'll say this. The biggest barrier is that there's $5 a month that you got to go spend to buy one Storm comic, to go pre-order one book and to go pick up that Storm book. That's the barrier. And also the barrier is a lot of Black people. This is not what I think. This is what I've heard. That's what I've heard. It's what people still tell me to this day. Because I'm one of the only Black people at my job that actually fools with comic book anything. People still think that comic books are for kids. That's something that kids do. It's not something that grown Black people do. It's still kind of looked at funny. Anime and manga is kind of looked at more like, okay, normalizing, right? Comic books is still like, you paying $5 for a comic book? I mean, how much is that book worth? There's a lot of people who love Storm that think like that go to these movies. They're called casuals. They think support is getting on Facebook and YouTube and saying, oh, look how beautiful Storm is. This is the fan casting for Storm. That's great, but real support looks like your wallet being open. And that's the language that Marvel speaks, and they should. And like Richard said to the investor, that's the only currency that works. Not how many pictures of AI Storm you can post on social media. That's great.
To that point, our goal, or one of our goals in 2025, I don't know of any group that has really pushed the Black comic pre-orders like we have.
There is nobody.
I'm not trying to be arrogant, egotistical. That's just not me. I don't have that bone in my body. I'm just being real. Like, I don't know of any group that really pushes Black comic pre-orders like we do. Just don't believe me. Look up hashtag. Just put hashtag Black comic pre-orders over your social media and see whose name pops up. I guarantee our name will pop up somewhere. That has to be something we have to redouble our efforts on in 2025. Pushing to our community the importance of pre-ordering these books. Because as to Herschel's point, at the end of the day, all Marvel and DC, just as much as they may like this or that, their business. And those sales matter. And those pre-orders matter. You want Storm to be an A-list character. You want to get that storyline that Maria Ayodela is talking about. I've written 20 issues of Storm already. But you guys got to buy the books in order for it to come to happen. You want those 20 issues, you got to pre-order these damn books. We got to get our community to understand the importance of that and push those books. I don't want Shadow Cabinet to end after 3 or 4 issues, man. I want Shadow Cabinet to go to 20 some odd issues. I want it to be ongoing. I want, DC and Milestone to say, hey, Shadow Cabinet's doing pretty good. Joe Illidge is introducing all these characters to the Milestone universe. We got all these dangling storylines and possibilities here. Maybe we should, send out another Static series or do another Blood Syndicate series and blow this thing up all over again. But we gotta get those pre-orders in, man. And I know I keep preaching this all the time. You guys are tired of hearing me say it.
Let me just ask you a question. Because you brought this up earlier to me, Herschel. Is it possible that comics are starting to just simply, apart from the trouble that we're having, is it possible that comics are starting to die?
Listen, that's
we're old, because the comics, to Herschel, your point, 35 and older, right? The kids kind of mess with the manga, right? So if that's really what's going on, because if you go to a bookstore, say like Barnes and Noble, I'll use a main chain. Barnes and Noble has one side is graphic novels, the other side it's all manga. They don't even fool with floppies anymore. But their manga side is very, very diverse. Not just what one or two companies. It's literally.
Bro, let me cut to the chase. You go to big comic book shops, it's mostly gaming. It's like 80% gaming. You got your comics on the side. Listen, the main people there's a bunch of black indie bros. I'm gonna be very explicit. There's a bunch of black indie bros that are making comics. They're a little bit more on the younger side, and they're coming up, right? Like I would say not 35, maybe even 30. But there are even a mix of anime and manga, and that's fine. Let them do what they do. The good thing about, I'm going to answer your question. The good thing, though, is that the older guys, we're into our profession. Some of us are middle class, some of us are not, some of us are high class, like Paul, got real rich, who knows. But we have the money to go and spend $20 to $30 a month on like 4 or 5 books. We got the money to do that.
Do that a week.
Huh?
I do that in a week.
well, guess what? Let's say, and I know everybody else just spend money on black books. Storm comes out once a month. Black Panther comes out once a month. That's like $11, $12 with tax. That's how much investment you need for Black Panther and Storm. That's it. Anything else, obviously, most people are buying that. Most black folks that are in our space, those are the 2 books that they buy. But to answer your question, yes and no. But all genres kind of run out of steam. Guess what? Your parents, my parents, they grew up on the westerns, Gunsmoke. That was the biggest, baddest thing. But it was a TV show. But that's what kind of ruled everything. Even through the 80s, they kind of died off a little bit. But even that genre kind of fell off. Something's going to come behind comics eventually. I think the shelf life for what we're doing in this hobby is maybe 10 more years. But it's really, really, really riding on what the movies are doing. So we are subject to a lot of what the casuals like.
I can't say I can't say I agree 100% with that. I think it's not, because this conversation's been going on for decades. They've literally been having the conversation about comics are dying. They're not going to be any here anymore since the 80s, right? 90s, where they had the big boom and doing all the holographic covers. They've been talking about this stuff for a while.
No, I'm not saying they're not going to be here in more than 2 years.
I think it's changing. I think someone, who was it that made the comment here? Was it Jeffrey Thorne?
I know he talked about the price point.
The price point and releasing digests. Now, DC's been doing these digests, right? Which is, for all intents and purposes, the same format as a manga. They're small digests. It's a trade paperback. It's basically a trade paperback, but it's smaller in size. You can throw it in your bag. You can transport it, whatever you want, but you're getting more bang for your buck. I mean, for $2 more than what you paid for a single floppy, you get a whole trade paperback in a digest form, the size of a manga, that you can take anywhere. And you don't have to sit there. The other thing you have to understand, one of the things my daughter pointed out to me, because I keep feeding her these floppies, or at least I used to, and she's like, "Daddy, can you just hold on to it until the whole story is out, then give it to me all at once? I don't like reading one issue and having to wait." Because that's the generation that's now. They're not used to having to, wait a month to get the rest of the story. We live in a society now that we binge watch. Netflix is one of those top streaming platforms because people can binge watch an entire series in a weekend.
Yeah. So can I just ask a few questions out here? Because there's a few comments that I think are really behind what I think is going on. First of all, there's this comment from Kanan White. I'm trying to find it now. And yeah, he made, I don't know if I can find it here. He was talking about Milestone, right? And my question is,
live on its own.
Who was the target audience for Milestone? Who was buying Milestone? What age were they? What age were they? And what complexion were they?
You're
Who was
talking
buying
about
it at the time? In the 90s, in the days. In the 90s.
They were black kids
Black and brown.
You know, yeah, black and brown. I would say 18 to 30.
No, they'll be younger than that. We was buying them. They were $1.25, so they were for kids, bro. They was for kids.
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Now,
bought them.
So who are we expecting to buy the comics today?
Not no kids.
And who are they targeted at?
Adults.
And then going back to this other point, right? If you're actually expecting to grow a new audience, then who are you pricing it for?
Not for kids.
And who's determining the pricing?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. The pricing is really out of control.
Well, here's the thing about that though, and I talked about this on the show the other week, last week. Derek, remember about the price point? Well, that was the other night. Yeah, was it the other night? Oh, no, it was.
You talk about that all the time. You talk about the black tax.
Yeah, we're not done. Not the black tax. No, not the black
tax.
No, but the tariff, the 25% tariff that may be coming to comic books.
The Chinese tariff. Yeah,
that's going to probably jack up books another $1 or $2. And that's a real thing. That probably is going to happen.
Okay, but okay. So I got an answer from Jeffrey Thorne, confirmed by Joseph Illage, right? Target was everybody, but the press made it out to be an FUBU thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so now today, who, based on the price and based on the story and everything else, who's the target?
Us, grown folk.
I'm just asking this question.
Old people like me and Paul.
Because my question is, if Milestone was if we were able to sell so much Milestone in the 90s, why can't you do it today?
There's
a lot more out there today, right? When Milestone came out originally in the 90s, there were no other options. There was, I mean,
well, that's debatable.
Hold on. Yeah, I immediately took that back.
It's social media.
What made Milestone unique is their business formula wasn't just putting out black comics. There were other there was Amaru, there was Ania, there were other black comic companies out there at the time. What made Milestone unique and what set them apart is because of that publishing deal with DC, they were afforded the opportunity to put books on the shelves every damn week. And that allowed fans to be like, yo, I don't need to. Every week I go to my LCS, there's one of these Milestone books with a face like mine on the cover.
Don't forget, you go to a 7-Eleven, you go to an Albertsons, they're in there. You go to a Publix, they're in there.
There's a lot more opportunity to get those books. And now there are lots of books that have black faces on them. You may open the book and there's no black character inside, or the black characters in the background, and they simply put a hot black woman on the cover, which is a story for a whole other topic for another day.
It's also a different culture. When last thing you picked up?
Well, it's a lot of things. It's the price, it's the content, it's the format. The format is a huge problem. Like I tried for years to get my kids into comics. They don't want to have anything to do with the comic. If I give it to them in a book, they might open it up and read it.
Right.
But
my kid's the same way.
Don't care.
She'll do a trade paperback all day. She will not.
We grew up watching episodic television. If we missed an episode of a show, too bad. You gotta wait till the reruns come on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because VCRs were for rich folk, or Betamaxes were for rich folk.
But guess what? Nobody's reading like how we used to back in the day, right? There's no typewriters back in the day. Everything when I was AI, I just had some of my paperwork done with AI. Probably should be saying that a lot. But times have changed. I don't even know last time I even picked up a newspaper and read it, right? It's probably been over a decade, bro. Let that sink in. I'm not super young. These kids, I would rather for them. I used to work in the Boys and Girls Club. They would rather go on social media, read an article, or watch a video than sit up here and read a comic book. I'm not going to say no names, but a comic book. It's just the culture has changed. People are getting away from hard, like physical reading. People are getting away from that unless it's school related. Now, there's some kids that are still reading. Paul, your daughter's probably one of them. My girls will still read books. But as far as for entertainment, I just go to freaking YouTube. I can watch about Static. I can go online and somebody and listen to Richard talk about shadow cabinet. And then I'll get on social media and say, well, DC's racist because they won't make us a shadow cat movie. Like, and that's what we do.
I mean, I think that you know, here's the thing about that. We're not. The times have changed, and if I can keep it a stack for just a hot second in terms of where we were versus where we are now. When we were kids, me and Paul particularly here, when we were kids, comic books were 20 cents, 25 cents. They were primarily for boys. It was a tool that parents used to get kids into reading, to boost the vocabulary. That's why books like, say like this here. Now this is just a reprint of the Ghostlight book, but you could get a book like this of a Silver Surfer #5. Right. You can get a reprint like this, but this is like a 40-page comic, 44-page comic. No, let me see, 47-page comic book for 75 cents. So this is from 1980. This you got to sit with this. I literally get my pull list, and I can put on an album, and I'm done with it before the album finishes. That's how quick the books are cheap, and the content is just not there like it used to be.
Yeah.
Because the truth be told, in terms of like me and Paul and maybe Jeff and a few others that are here, we're used to reading these books for real. We were readers. I didn't know, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't know a lot about art when I was coming up reading these books. For us back in the day, it was just, the art was fine, it was there, whatever, but we didn't, the kids I talked to with about these books, whatever, it never was about the art. It was always about the story. And so what I'm getting at is that nowadays it's more about the cover. Because you said, this is your point, what sells these books today are covers. Like this one here. I mean, bro, this is, bruh. I saw this, man. I said, man, I got to have that.
Yeah, but y'all had the same artists and writers, like maybe 4 artists, 4 writers. So
that
wasn't the thing. Now you got 100.
That's all it was.
That's all it was.
We, you know, and again, it's like the TV channel. We only had 3 channels. We only, you know, episodic TV, like Derek talked about. If you missed the show, you just missed it. You know, and again, it's just a different time.
We have to help to develop. We have to help to develop the community.
I don't know if we can, though, Herschel. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if we can. I don't think we have that much.
No. We don't have to. We don't have to, and we probably can take the edge off. There's still going to be knuckleheads that have the funds, because Black people spend trillions of dollars. That's documented proof. We spend trillions of dollars on stuff we don't even freaking need. And we are begging for movies, but we're not using that same energy with our wallets to go buy these books because we're uninterested. Okay, part of it is we're uninterested. We don't want to read. The other issue is we don't even know some of these freaking books exist. Oh man, I didn't know Black Panther was out before the Christopher Priest run. I got a lot to read. There is a lot of Black people that I don't think we realize that have just entered the hobby, bro. That there's a lot of back issues they haven't even read, and there's a lot of catching up they have to do. Keep in mind, Black Panther was a gateway. It opened up the door for a lot of people. There's a lot of people when Chadwick Boseman died, because they literally just came in the room and then they had a great time, and all of a sudden the character is gone, and they felt like everybody, they are ignorant of everything else that has happened. That's why it was so impactful. But I'm gonna tell you something else. Switching gears, my last little point, let y'all talk. There's another issue that's out there too that nobody wants to talk about. Within the all new, all different Marvel, where people quote unquote, well, the other community says it's woke and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And you have the rise of Ripper and what he's doing. He just sold like $65,000 worth of a black girl on the front of a cover of a children's book. Okay, he out there making bank. That's another topic. But the other issue is there's a lot of people in our community that just want to hear and know that they're developing and they're doing something with these characters, but they're not willing to spend the money. They found that out the hard way when they were making a lot of the quote unquote, I'm using quotation marks here, woke books or woke agenda. They thought, well, all these people are going to come because y'all been missing our representation for all these years. Y'all been crying about representation matters. They thought those folks were going to stand in line outside these comic book shops and buy up all those books. But those same people wanted those books, but they just wanted to know that they were being made, but they didn't want to do any type of investment. That's a big problem in our community as well that we never talk about. You don't know how many people jump in comments or have something to say, oh, they should, I don't know why they do this with Storm.
You know what? That's actually what Alita Martinez talked about at Atlantic Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
She talked about that. She was on the panel with these academics, and they were fawning all over the characters. They were talking about women characters in comics.
And why don't we see this? Why don't we have that? And why don't the big two do this?
Yeah.
And what was the comment she made to that, Rich? What did she say to that?
Y'all don't buy the books.
Y'all don't buy the books.
It was that simple. And look, I'm gonna be honest. It was, you could literally hear a pin drop.
Right.
And one of the professors was kind of like, she was just stunned. Because it was kind of like, it was almost like, I know you didn't say that to us.
Yeah.
But she really kept it a stack with them, because at the end of the day, it's all about buying the books. You got to buy the books. So
but
anyway,
I would say this though. If it's good, and I hate saying this, but it's the truth. If Black Comic Lords is good, people will subscribe. If these comic books are good and people are aware, people will buy it. If it's good and they're aware of it, people will buy it. See, that's another fact that we don't want to talk about either, because we think every black, I'm gonna go here, we think every big name white writer and artist that puts out a book, we should be, oh, he's good, we gotta support. And we think the same way about a lot of these black writers and artists. Some of that stuff ain't good, bro. And a lot of people in this house, when I'm not just talking about the four of us, but a lot of these people in this chat looked at some of this stuff after issue 2. I ain't buying this no more. This ain't good. This ain't good. Listen, I'm gonna say something. We had a lot of high hopes for a lot of people that have came and we've interviewed on this, and they put out their product. It wasn't good. We didn't air them out, but y'all know exactly what I'm talking about, huh? But guess what?
Well, all we can do is what we can do. So we've talked about all of this. Paul, let me just ask you. We about comic books. Let me just ask you about a comic book, Paul. Okay. Did you read Avengers 20?
The T'Challa episode, the Black Panther episode?
Yes, the Black Panther book. Yes. Did you read that?
T'Challa and the Avengers, or T'Challa only?
No, get it right. Get it right, Dr. Wizard. T'Challa and the Little Friends.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
So that was that. Listen, here's the reason why I bring that book up is because that book literally slid under the radar.
Not under my radar.
But I have not heard.
It's on the
of course, you've been doing interviews and you've been kind of off, but I've been the only one that's weird. I was the only one talking about that book being, it's not an Avengers book, it's a Black Panther book. Great issue. Now, here's the thing about that book. The reason why I bring that book up, that was a self-contained story. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that element is missing in comics. we're not getting self-contained one-shot stories. It's the reason why we say Jeffrey Thorne's King in Black, Black Panther book is the best Black Panther one-shot in the history of one-shots.
The best.
And
How many one shots does Black Panther even have? I thought that was like maybe 2.
what?
Not to take away nothing from Jeffrey Thorne, because I like that it's 2, but how many one shots does T'Challa have?
Right now?
Ever.
It's only 2. It's Avengers and Ultimate Black Panther.
Yeah. They need some more, but I don't see why they would do that because of the type of character he is, and I get that. But go ahead.
No, but what I was saying though is it was a self-contained story. It was a story. It was nothing culturally, quote unquote, about it. It was just basically the Black Panther being the Black Panther, kicking butt, taking names, being the hero that he's supposed to be. And I'm just asking you, Paul, a question. When's the last time your mans looked so regal?
Oh, that last issue.
In the Sherilyn Eaton run.
Yeah, but that was a part of Blood Hunt.
Blood Hunt, yeah.
To be fair, that's a part of a tie-in. I'm talking about him all alone, fighting for the aliens or whatever, liberating the people, holding up the flag at the end of the issue.
That was an outstanding issue, man. Mark and I have been on hiatus because both of us have just been busy, and he's traveling and I'm traveling, and I've been doing all these damn interviews for all y'all ungrateful bastards. But
say it again. Say it again.
Trying to curate this archive of Black comic creators, because I'd be damned if what happened to MB Bright happens. Anyway, so yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to talk about the issue. It was an outstanding issue. Shout out to Jed MacKay. Jed MacKay has always done well with T'Challa, going all the way back to Avengers. He's a writer who I think doesn't get enough props. His Avengers run, what he did with Moon Knight. Mm-hmm. I'm not even a Moon Knight fan, but I'm collecting Moon Knight because of Jed MacKay, because he's just that good. And it was literally a Black Panther one shot. It's called Avengers in name only. There are no other Avengers in it. There's no references to the Avengers. It's just if that had been in a Black Panther series, you wouldn't have been able to tell the difference.
I'm just trying to figure out why I hadn't heard nobody talk about it.
I don't know, because the cover A, which is what most people get, even people that have their pull list. Did it have Black Panther on the cover?
He was the only Avenger on the cover.
He's on the cover.
I don't know. Look, one of the things that you said, Rich, is when's the last time you saw him be so regal? When's the last time you saw him be so ferocious? My brother was killing people.
Yeah,
like people forget. He's not a superhero. He's a damn kid.
It was a violent book. By the way, go ahead and close out your point, because I want to say something about the Blade book after we talk about it.
My man was regal. He was a warrior. He laid hands, and he talked his talk, man.
Yeah, he did.
He had his swag. My man had his swag back.
Yeah,
So
I just asked the question, because again, when I read this book, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna set it up for you. Okay, so I'm getting ready to go to bed. I got a stack of books or whatever. I was like, I said, you know what? Let me just grab the Avengers, because I saw T'Challa on the cover, and I said, well, okay, and I thumbed through it. And all I saw was BP. So I get in the bed or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Set the alarm clock. So I said, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this up, and I'm gonna start reading it. Reading it. Okay. No other Avengers. It's just T'Challa.
Yeah.
And
it was T'Challa being what? The deadliest man alive, which is a line Jed MacKay brought back.
Yeah.
When
they should have,
when he reintroduced T'Challa to the Avengers, and Carol Danvers is saying, I want T'Challa on the team. Sam Wilson's like, why do you want T'Challa? Because he's the deadliest man alive. Man, I
I,
about
I
passed
think
out.
they should have made that Avengers 20 a red band book. Because
It was bloody, man. It wasn't that bloody.
no, it wasn't bloody, but they could have. I mean, it was a violent book though. T'Challa was doing some very very violent things in that book.
I thought, it seems like he took inspiration. I know y'all probably don't like this. It seems like he took a slight left turn towards the Colts run energy, post T'Challa like breaking free and kind of doing his thing. But like I was like, yeah, this is the T'Challa like. But I did feel like, yeah, don't get too comfortable because within 2 or 3 issues, somebody gonna be slapping him. He gonna fall all out, get knocked out. But right. all heroes go through that. They try to readjust their power sets or whatever.
Now you that's a good segue, Herschel. Blade, issue 2.
I haven't read it yet, so don't do me spoilers.
Okay, it definitely felt filler. It had a filler feel to it. I don't know what's going on with Blade. He's still trying to figure out what happened with him and Varney and how that happened. So he's got that in his head. But they market this book as so he's got that. They market this book as a red band book, but there was really not a lot of violent elements, in my opinion, to warrant an extra piece of plastic on that book, in my opinion. Book is $4.99, so it's not like you're paying an extra $1 because it's a red band. But I just think that, that book was okay for what it was, but it really didn't stand out, in my humble opinion. Which is weird to me because we were so crazy over Blade in the Blood Hunt stuff. And so to see him kind of like be off to his own now, and it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of weird what they're doing with him. I know he's going to be in I think that, you know what? I can't talk about that. I did hear a little birdie. I could say it, but I won't give up my source. A little birdie told me that there's going to be a book to come out with Blade in it. It's going to have Blade, I think Wolverine,
Black
it's almost gonna be like a Midnight Suns book. It's not a Midnight Suns book. I think it's gonna be called Hellions. But there's gonna be a Kill Squad crew. Blade's gonna be on it. So that's a rumor. So, but a little bird did tell me that.
That's a good segue. Speaking of rumor, I'm gonna let y'all go after this. But shout out to one of my favorite characters. Who read the Venom, All New Venom? I know it's a gimmicky book.
I was waiting for you to raise. I was like, man, if Herschel was here, he was, because I almost posted some stuff from that book, and I was like, man, if Herschel was still in the space, I know he'd probably be the first one to mention.
Is this the one with the Luke Cage?
Cardiac.
Cardiac. Hold on. Paul, did you read it?
No, I haven't read it. I thumbed through it and I saw Cardiac was in the book.
Cardiac?
Yeah. Are you talking about Venom?
Venom, All New Venom with the gold Venom.
Oh, I'm thinking, okay.
You talking about the wrong book.
I thought you were talking about the Venom Lethal Protector book.
No. This just came out today.
So the
allegedly,
new one.
Robbie Robertson, J. Jonah Jameson is the editor at Daily Bugle. Luke Cage, Madame Mystique, and Rick Jones are your 4 candidates to take on the new symbiote. I will say this. A lot of people think, it's after a couple of panels that I saw, it has to be Luke Cage. But I think Luke Cage is the red herring. I think they're going to temporarily give it to, I ain't going to say no names, but if you read the book, pay attention to what the other black person says in the book and how he kind of looks back like that. Bro, if he becomes Venom, it'll be cool, but it's temporary. But I thought that was a cool issue. So definitely go and pick that up. If something happens with the character with this, is it a spec? No, but is it something different and cool? Yes, because he's supposed to be getting new powers. Venom sells books. To me, I mean, he's one of my favorite characters, but I don't think he's like a the Spider-Man in the Wolverines of the world, but he sells books.
Did you see the Venom movie?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would not go see that mess. I'll wait till it come out on double bootleg before I go to the theaters and watch that. I'm not.
That was terrible. So it's not been any good.
Y'all have a good night. I gotta sign off. I gotta get in this bed. I gotta get up and go this thing. I was not even supposed to be seeing y'all, but I had to come back.
You, bro.
Yeah. Y'all be good. Peace.
Take care, Herschel.
So that was good to see our partner in the building.
To answer people's questions, Cardiac pops up in Venom Lethal Protector series. That's the last time I saw it, Cardiac.
What's your favorite book right now, Paul?
I mean, the obvious answer would probably be Ultimate Black Panther.
And that is a good book.
I'll tell you, outside of my bias towards Black Panther, a book that I think is not really being talked about that's really well done is Power Fantasy.
You know what? I caught up with Power Fantasy.
Yeah.
I don't like black people when they're bougie. I mean, listen, it's nothing against black people that really are bougie, but I'm like, okay, if you're bougie, your level of bougie has to be tolerable. And I just think the main character, the all-powerful dude, he just too cool for his own self.
I feel somewhat attacked by this whole.
I'm just saying, bro. He wears glasses. He's got a beard. He's like, you know, we might have to kill 100 million people today.
Bro, you wear glasses and have a beard. What are you talking about?
My point. Just don't say it like that. You know, might have to kill 100 million people today, but the world be better for it. Okay.
I've seen pictures of you in your church clothes, man. You look like a freaking, fashion model, dude.
Look, it is what it is. I'm just saying. Look, Power Fantasy. I think it's a good book. I think that it's a mind job, though.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm saying that is because it's very, very subtle in its delivery, and it's a pretty good book. I can't front on it. It's a pretty good book.
It kind of raises the question for me: is humanity worth saving?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
If humanity were gods, it would reveal who you are. It reveals your character, not help develop character. And the revelation of the character of humanity is not all good.
No, it's not.
People are kind of trash.
The truth be told, man, humanity doesn't want to be saved, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
we're selfish. Selfish.
Yeah.
That's the theme of the book.
Yeah. Humanity doesn't want to be saved. Humanity expects for the other shoe to drop. If we just woke up tomorrow and sirens would go off that nuclear weapons are coming this way, we're all probably going to be like, well, it had to happen sometime. And I think that's the sentiment when it comes to these kind of stories, that humanity is really hopeless. For me, as a minister, optimism and hope is the space I breathe in. I have to have hope. When I don't have hope, I'm hopeless. And I don't want to be like humanity, because humanity in and of itself is hopeless. Now, are they helpless? No. But can they help themselves? No. They have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They just like to do dumb stuff and kill themselves. I mean, think about it. People smoke cigarettes. They buy a pack of cigarettes. On the side of it, the cigarettes could cause cancer. and they just fire them up. It'd be 20 below degrees, and they'd be outside firing it up. And that's you know, but this could kill you. I know. You eat too much chocolate, that could kill you.
You eat too much mac and cheese at Thanksgiving.
Too much mac and cheese. I know. I had a bunch of turkey that could kill you. I know. we can't help ourselves. we can't help ourselves. But I mean, the story in and of itself, I think, is pretty cool and unique. Let me ask you a question. Have you read Jonathan Hickman's run, God is Dead?
No.
That's another mind trip. Because basically it's about all of these gods from these different pantheons getting together to kind of take over, control things. It's a trippy story. It's like 25, 30 issues, I want to say. But I mean, these kind of stories are
hey, peace out, Joe.
Take care, bro.
Thanks for being here, man.
They are pretty interesting. They're pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm enjoying the power fantasy. I'm glad you guys talked me into getting it. But man, word is Todd McFarlane is going back to Spawn. He's going to be back on Spawn, rewriting it now after issue 360. So that's news from the Spawn universe.
Right.
So we got that news. But as far as books that I enjoy reading, man, it's been that Avengers 20 was probably my favorite book of the week. I gotta say, the Nazi Boys, pretty good. I gotta say, I was happy with the last issue. And
hey, what's up, Joe? Yeah, I'll check my email when I get a chance. I've been busy, man. I've been busy.
Let's see, what else is we didn't even have you did the interview with Joe Elledge about Shadow Cabinet, right?
Yes.
And I like what he's doing with Rocket. It's interesting. Needless to say, of course, the Nazis being there is kind of cool.
Let me say one thing about the Rocket thing. What's interesting about the focus on Rocket is when you go back and reread the Icon series, the original Icon series, it was called Icon.
And yeah, Icon. It was about Rocket.
It was really about Rocket. You know, the whole story is told really from Raquel's point of view, for all intents and purposes. When you really, really look at the whole series as a whole, the series is really about Rocket.
Yep. It was. I mean, again, when Milestone did their thing or whatever, they were, I think, masters of getting you to look here,
right,
when you really should be looking here. They put a lot of things in these books, man, that I think that people can still, if they go back and reread them, which is why I think there's one of the reasons why they've been doing the compendiums late, so people can kind of go back and catch up. Because Joe is pulling from a lot of that stuff from back in the day.
Yes.
And so it's going to make an interesting read for the new readers or whatever. I'm interested in what new readers think about the Milestone stuff, because I won't say that they're so few in number, but I'm just curious because, these characters are pretty much relatively new because they hadn't been around. They've been around since the 90s, but they relatively have been around of late for the last, 3-4 years in the second season or second iteration of it. So I'm just kind of curious as to what people really think about it. Because I do like Shadow Cabinet is giving me hope in terms of what they're going to do with the character. Now, I would like to see Blood Syndicate return. Definitely Static. Curtis Metcalf can't help but pop up in everything because he's that dude. So, you know what I'm saying? I like him. I like seeing him in this, you know, he's on the run, but he's still kind of active. So that's been kind of cool to see. I'm trying to think. Had you ever heard of this book, Paul, before I posted it?
I had not.
Yeah. The creator, David Washington, he reached out and sent me a DM. He said he was going to, because I asked him, I said, well, if you want to add your,
you need to check our email. He emailed you, by the way.
Okay. Because I just told him to email us and with his link and his logo, so we could add him to the independent site part of it. So that may be what that email is. I'm not sure, but he did send a direct message to me. He thanked me for the love and the kind words or whatever. But when I put that book up in our space, it got literally 60 likes, like 50 to 60 likes. And I just picked that book up at a bookstore, a black bookstore. So it behooves us maybe to start looking in some other spaces for some of these books as well, because we're not getting them the traditional way.
I mean, it's amazing. We're here at Black Comic Lords and prides ourselves in being, above average in terms of our knowledge of, books that are out there that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And this book flew completely under the radar, and it's got a lot of accolades. And by your account, is a very well written book.
Yeah.
And this goes back to, well, how do we move the needle in our space? Our discussion we were having earlier. A book that's that good should have been known in our community.
Mm.
What can we do so that things like that don't happen? Because if it happened with his book, who knows how many hundreds of other books that are out there that are really dope that nobody knows about.
And again, we're one channel, one space. We don't have the monopoly on all of it. I think we have a chunk, but how big that chunk is, I don't know.
Yeah.
There are bigger channels than ours.
Certainly.
Have more subscribers. I mean, Ernie Blur Without Fear, that dude's got 100K.
We are 68. How many is it? Was Derek, like you said, like 68 people from being 4,000?
4,000.
Yeah, we're close to 4,000 right now. Yeah.
So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, because we're only like 60 some odd
66
people
away right now
from having four. Let's have a nice round 4,000 to start off 2025.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now Thor asked the question. He said, "Would I recommend God Is Dead?" God Is Dead is what I recommended. I mean, it's cool for what it was. It's Jonathan Hickman. So if you like, Jonathan Hickman is wordy.
Yeah.
Now some people don't like wordy. They like comics, but they don't like wordy books. But Jonathan Hickman is kind of wordy. And so if you don't mind reading, if I can say it like that, then it would be fine for you to check out. I would just maybe, pick up issue 1 or 2, check it out, see if you like it. It's an acquired taste, like Jonathan Hickman stuff, because when he did Decorum was insane in the membrane. You had to read that thing a couple of times to kind of get it. And those books were thick. It was like 32-page books. And yeah, so if you like to, exercise your mind, and Jonathan, you can't go wrong with Jonathan Hickman. Because that's what he does. That is what that dude is going to do. He says, "Do you guys have a Discord?" No, we probably need to get one.
Not yet.
Probably need to get one. I'll probably never be on it because y'all just too crazy like that, and I ain't trying to lose my mind. Discords be wild, man. But I mean, Derek, what have you been reading, bro? I mean,
we are on Blue Sky.
So Yeah, in terms of what I have not had the time to read much because it's work and then prep for shows and then sleep right now. But I finally got in today. For some reason, was the Stranger Comics Day. I literally, when I got home, there was this box right here was sitting on my porch. First of all, this box right here,
Ooh,
all
that's a
all
big
from
box.
Stranger Comics. I don't know if you can see this too well. Hold it in front of me, maybe it'll show up. Right, big box. I haven't opened it yet. And then another box which had this, which is wow, still can't see this. This is
Put it on your chest like this.
this is the original issue 1 of the Untamed from
Yeah,
Stranger
yeah, yeah.
Comics. This is a
Okay.
2009 version. So the big box should have like the trades for the Untamed and 1 or 2 of the Niobe. So
I think you're gonna love the Untamed. That was
I read
great.
number 1. I read number 1 over the weekend, and I enjoyed that starting point. And I've been waiting for those trades for a long time. I'm guessing the metal is also in this box.
Untamed, baby, Untamed.
And then the other thing that came, I went to the LCS today, and these are waiting for me today. Defiant, number 1, and the Niobe Blade cover.
The Blade cover. I haven't got mine yet.
And
Should be in
then this
stock.
Niobe as well. Yeah. So my short-term goal right now is to get through that series. And if I could take just a minute just to do a quick ad for the next time I think we're going to show up. Unless, Paul, if you're doing a show on Friday, I'm not sure if you are or not. But I did want to share.
I don't even know what I'm doing on Friday, man.
I know you don't.
That sounded a little shadish, man. A little shadish.
But I did want to share one other thing quickly. Hold on, give me just a moment. So on Saturday, you may have seen on our previous shows with Stranger Comics that there's a BCL cover that's coming out.
Yep.
So that cover is gonna be available for sale on Saturday.
Yep.
I know Paul and I are going to be on the show with Stranger Comics, but we just want you all to know about it. It's December 7th, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be, I think, doing this simulcast both on Stranger Comics YouTube and on Black Comic Lords YouTube. And this is going to be your opportunity to get the Black Comic Lords exclusive cover. And I think there's 2 different Black Comic Lords covers. One is I think they're making only 100 copies, and there might be another that's limited to even fewer, 25 copies.
Yeah, 25.
And on top of that, if the show gets 50 or more likes, then I think what I understood from Seb was that all participants will get a free comic. So show up on Saturday, join the show. 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
Yep.
Get your Black Comic Lords exclusive cover.
Oh, and Louisiana Kid, we did a con last year, or early this year I should say. Last year, we thinking about 2025. We did Atlantic Comic Con together. We were all together at Atlantic Comic Con, the 4 Horsemen.
Oh yeah! Shout out to Kanan White and Sean Damian Hill on Defiant, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
We got them books. Love listening. That book can't come out fast enough. That's all.
I picked up both of these over the weekend too. There's a store that's kind of like Second and Charles, I guess. It's called McKay's in North Carolina. So I picked up both of these trades, but I also won an auction for Bitterroot Omnibus. So that's coming in any day now as well. So that's my reading, and I got that for $9. So I'm really happy about that.
Let me ask you a question, Derek. The Wizard cover.
Yeah, 131. 131.
Yes. You got that?
I've got 4 or 5 copies, and I gave one of those away at Atlantic Comic Con too.
Okay. What about you, Paul? You got that?
What you talking about?
The Wizard 131 cover with
Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
No, I don't have one of those. I have one, but it doesn't have. It's not the one. It's not the one where he's on the cover. It's like Wolverine's on the cover.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just picked up that for $5.
Oh, nice.
What?
Very nice.
That's absurd.
$5. Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Congratulations on that pickup. So that's a good one.
Yes, it was.
Let's see, for those who aren't familiar with it, here's the see if I can share this screen now. This would be the one that Rich is talking about.
Yep, the first Captain America.
Which was not accurate, which also makes it kind of collectible.
Yeah. I think there's a good reason. I think Marvel changed the story midstream.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why. I think they originally were going to have him to be first, and then they changed it because they're expecting an uproar. That's my guess.
Can't have a black man doing something first for the white man.
Nope. So,
But anyway.
Damon, we saw your post on Facebook, and I've seen your messages here, in the chat. I like your idea. I think logistically, there's a lot more involved than you might know, because there's got to be a major investment put in place to bring any one creator to CGC to sign books.
Yeah,
and we don't have investment money to get anybody anywhere. We can't get ourselves anywhere. So the challenge is more of logistical and investment. And if somebody else is willing to do investment, then we're happy to help.
Hey, you donate us the money, and we'll put together anything you like.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, and a lot, we don't like to go into the numbers too much. You might look at the Black Comic Lords community, you see like 70,000 plus members. We don't know how many of them are truly active, right? Similarly, YouTube channel, we're nearing 4,000. I wonder, I know we can get people participating. I don't know how many people we get participate right now, especially among the speculation and collector community. That would be more likely to want to get these things signed, especially at this point in time in the market too. So all those factors together, I just don't know if it's something that would be worth us investing our time in trying to get somebody else with money, some other company with money to invest their money into.
Yeah, it would definitely have to be a sponsorship. But I think I will say this, I think that's something that could happen like down the road, but maybe perhaps not in the near future, only because when corporations see that you draw attention and you have eyes on you, then they're willing to spend money on you to make things happen. So
I think what we could do is we could tag along. We could tag along next time we could reach out maybe next time they have a popular Black creator.
So probably the easiest way for us to do it. We do have somewhat of an in with CGC. I'm not going to name names.
She couldn't be here tonight because she's moving.
Wow, I just said we're not going to name any names, and you just.
I didn't say her name.
You can't hold water for anything.
I didn't say her name, but she needs to fix her halo.
Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, so here's the thing. Hopefully, we will be invited back to Atlantic Comic-Con next year. And I think given the amount of creators in our space that tend to show up to that event, that would be a perfect opportunity to invite CGC to come to an event like that, or one of their representatives, and have them certify signatures on
books
there.
Yeah, that right there is probably definitely doable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to talk to the brass over at Atlantic Comic-Con, see if we could help make that happen. Because it's probably easier said than done, if that makes any sense. Because I like that, Paul. Because what that will do is that will bring more people to the con.
Mm-hmm.
Just because if they know somebody from CGC is coming to that con, people are going to bring their books to get them certified. Whoever artists are going to be there, they can do the official signing and all that. I mean, I kind of like that.
I'm the CEO.
Somebody
This
spent
is
some
my-
time packing this up.
my job.
Look, I got the peanuts in here and everything to make sure these books are safe. It's not like that other book that came to me the other
Oh
day.
man, I meant to ask you, bro. Did you get your bread back, or what happened with that, bro?
Yeah. So for those who don't know, there's I had a box of 3 slabs that came in, 3 Philadelphia #1 variant covers, not the easy ones to get, but the ones that are, you know, the one that's limited to 500, the 1-in-25 ratio, and then another one that's a limited quantity, even though I don't know what the quantity is. And the person had the 3 slabs together and then wrapped with the bubble wrap. But then if you can imagine, if this is the box, he actually had it going diagonal from one corner to the other, so that if that box is dropped in any way, there's no give inside the box. So the box arrived all smashed up. I opened it up, and even though the books were bubble wrapped, because they were slab, one of the slabs was cracked. So I reached out to the guy. He said, "I'll take care of you, but let's do a claim first," because he did UPS ground. So it's like $100. So I filed a claim. I'm waiting to hear back from USPS. So that's where it stands right now. But he said he'll take care of it if USPS.
Derek, you seem to have a lot of issues with your mail carriers.
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem.
You know what, Derek? I think Paul's been talking to the people.
Look, it's
Paul's sabotaging me. Paul's sabotaging my plexes.
No,
He wants all my plexes to be cracked up.
No, Derek. I'm not gonna air your stuff out and put you on blast, but you know what you do for a living, and
That's
you know
funny,
the places that you've been in the world, and the people that you have alienated across the world, all on behalf of a certain agency. I'm not gonna say anything, but as a result, you don't live in a major metropolitan area. You live out in the boondock sticks somewhere, and you have problems getting, stuff like cable and internet and mail.
So my trades
Not my
came
problem.
in. I'm ignoring Paul.
Of course you're ignoring because I'm speaking truth.
Oh man! So you got another copy? That's the trade.
This is the trade. Yeah, this is the trade.
Okay.
And let's see. This one is the. Okay, so this is.
Oh man, that's the one.
This is that Niobe is the regular cover, I think. And then.
You don't have the metal. You don't have the shiny metal. What's going on, bro? You do?
Yeah.
Where's Richard's copy? Richard, where's your copy of the shiny metal?
Ting ting ting. Hear that?
No, I don't have that. I got paper copy.
Paper. And then I got this one, the She Tribe too.
Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah,
that's the dope. Yeah,
nice.
Stranger Comics has the best covers in comics.
Very good packaging. There's no chance that was going to get damaged in shipping. So thank you, Stranger Comics.
Speaking of that, we got to get out of here, man.
It's midnight. So
we just talked about getting books in conditions, and of course, I'm a collector. We all collectors, and how our books show up to us matter. And so I think that the artists, creators, or whomever who want us to buy their books and who want us to really patronize them need to consider when you ship us something, you know what I'm saying, that book gets us. Because one thing I can say about Sebastian, every box I've gotten from Sebastian, it's always a Gemini shipment.
Yeah.
Whether it's a trade or whether it's a single copy or whatever, homie uses Gemini shippers, which is one of the safest ways to send comic books. If you can't afford to send, cardboard, painter's tape, there's a lot of things to do that you can help secure books. I mean, it matters, y'all. It matters. I bring that up because some creators out here think that it doesn't matter. It does. Okay? It does. And especially if you want us to talk about your books, send us a book in the right condition. Because if it's folded, I might not put you out there, but I'm gonna put a picture up there. Look what I got, y'all. That's not cool. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to Saturday. Saturday's gonna be dope. You know what I'm saying? Stranger Comics in the building. We gotta go, man. Brandon,
Yeah, I would show one thing. Just quickly show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show
more
that.
flex. He's got more flex.
No, this is a negative flex. Here.
golly, Paul.
This is-
I'm looking forward to that, bro.
Now I've got 3 more stacks on top of this of books I have not read yet.
Unread books. Yeah.
Unread books.
So these
Because and you know why they're unread? Because I spend so much time doing all this black comic book
See
stuff.
that right
all
there?
of-
That's what I'm talking about. That right there.
my 3 slabs right there.
Nobody,
They arrived in that.
nobody wants to hear my lamentations.
And then let's see. Oh, I don't have the third picture. Yeah, so there's the cracked one of the cracked cases. So this is the one that's limited to 500.
And that's
Even
a 9.8.
My own team is just like, get back to work, Paul. Go on here.
Yeah.
You got a lot of reading to do, bro.
Negro blood.
Yep.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Somewhere in here I posted another picture. See.
Man, that's a rough
I'm not
box.
finding it. Somewhere I posted it, but yeah. Basically the comics were packaged going this way across from one corner to the caddy, the
Mhm.
complete
That's ugly, man. I
opposite
don't even want
corner.
to look at that. That's crazy.
Yeah. I saw that box and I knew it was, anyway. Hey, that stuff happens, especially when you're in my line of work, I guess.
Hey, yeah. Oh, you gonna talk about your line of work? Do you recognize this?
You did it. I don't recognize
Yes,
anything.
That's Avengers 224.
What's the significance of this issue?
It's MD Bright's
Can you
first
see it?
work in Marvel.
Oh, he did work for Marvel? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
He actually did work for an Avengers book? Isn't Avengers kind of their top tier book?
Yes. And the Avengers are the how did old boy put it the other night? The top team.
Yeah.
He did work on their top book? That's so
On
crazy.
On their top.
I hadn't heard that. But he's not. Man, well,
He's not John Cassidy.
Hey,
Right.
Rich, there's a cover I saw in the store today. I don't know if you've seen this, if you've seen this one yet. I just want to share this, and then I'm done at that point.
What you got, bro?
Did you see this cover in the store today?
I have not been to the shop. That's probably issue 2, I'm guessing.
It is, yes.
Yeah, because I'm definitely reading the first issue was real good.
Okay,
what,
all right.
what book
What's
is this?
the deal with that issue?
I don't know. I just noticed some black faces on it, and it
Oh
caught my
yeah.
attention.
It's definitely got some black characters in the book. It's basically about as kind of self-explanatory. There's a demon-possessed person in the White House.
Oh.
Yeah. So not too far from that right now, but
I was literally about to say that. This is like foreshadowing, huh?
Look, we're gonna be all right, like Kendrick Lamar say. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. So y'all hold on. We gonna be all right, man. As long as we got these comic books, we're gonna be all right. We'll be all right. We're gonna get to these 4 years. We're
Keep
going to
hope
read a lot
alive.
of books. I don't know if we're gonna be able to afford them, but we're gonna Paul's gonna have to drink a lot of whiskey.
As you can see in these stacks that I have, if comics no longer become available, I'll be okay.
The comics will be more expensive than the whiskey soon.
Bruh, you know what I'm saying? You got to get your whiskey. You gonna have to get your whiskey from Tennessee. You ain't gonna be able to get no. Them Terrence gonna tell you.
Start a moonshine distillery.
Oh, and here's the funny thing: we're laughing about this, but we really do not know what's coming.
All we can do is laugh because what's the alternative?
Yeah, to cry. Ain't gonna do that. Ain't crashing out on the internet just because somebody is in the White House. I'm like this. if you make sure you got a job, make sure you got a side hustle, make sure your family's good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you got to cut back, do what you got to do, trim the fat, whatever. Do what you got to do to survive. One thing about Black people, it doesn't matter. Black folks have seen this before. Black folks dealt with Reagan. Black folks dealt with Bull Connor. Black folks dealt with, look, we going to be all right. We're going to be all right. So, you know, that's all I can say. We're going to be all right. You might be sick, but you're going to be all right.
We don't die, we multiply.
We multiply. let's say we go as long as they keep this football is going on. If I got 4 years of football to deal with these 4 years of a certain president, I'm good. I'm bruh. You're gonna need comics, you're gonna need sports, you're gonna need your faith, you're gonna need some whiskey. You're gonna need something to help you get through this, and it's gonna be all right. But we're gonna get through it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like the pandemic, man. I mean, Black Comic Lords started basically during the pandemic. Comics blew up during the pandemic.
Yep.
This is an opportunity for comics to become big again.
Well, you know,
Lord knows we ain't gonna be wanting to step outside the house after dark in the next 4 years.
I know. We'll be all right, bro. We'll be all right. Hey, look. Hey, please, that iron is in a lot of people's houses. Don't let nobody fool you. Y'all see them vote. Y'all see them folk at Academy. Trust the brothers. Yeah. The brothers ain't got no pocket knife. They got some real iron.
So, everybody's getting their ammo up. Get your ammo up and get your guap up.
One way or the other. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And here's the thing too. I will say this as we close. Just remember that at the end of the day, everybody's gonna have to do what they need to do to survive. So all you gotta do is do your part. Buy the comics, read the comics. Do your part. Message. You're gonna need some other mirrors. I'm gonna be all right with the Kool-Aid.
I'll check in with Mark tomorrow to see if we're gonna be doing our Wakanda whiskey and blurred them on Friday. I've had this bottle of a little something special that I've been waiting to share with our whiskey drinking community for the last month. So see if we get to pop that open on Friday. I'll let you guys know.
Y'all will probably empty the bottle on Friday because y'all haven't talked about since the election.
We haven't done a show in a minute. And there's
Hey Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Derek. I'm finna do my impression of Mark. What's going on? For those that don't know, we have a new president. We gotta go, y'all.
Oh God. Black Comic Lords. We got you.